Just turn on your mics. What do you guys have? Here. Okay.
Thank you. It's chaotic here tonight.
Okay. Everyone. Okay, in accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board, town hall, and mailing to the officially designated newspapers a list of the meeting dates annually, indicating that this meeting would take place at the town hall at 7 p.m. on November 18th, 2024.
Joseph Caulfield,
Present.
Chandra Harjani,
Here.
Amy Lawrence,
Here.
Gary Rosen,
Here.
Regina Truitt,
Here.
Priscilla Saraf,
Here.
Jiajing Peng,
Here.
Jessica Blatt.
Here. Okay, we are going to start with the approval of minutes for 10/21/24. Are there any changes or corrections? Does anyone want to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then we are going to move on to the memorializations. The first is calendar 4000-24, Signature Realty, 549 Milburn Avenue, Milburn. Eileen, who is eligible?
Eligible are Chandru, Gary, Regina, Priscilla, Jessica.
Okay, would someone like to make sorry, are there any corrections or changes? Would someone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
Oops, second.
Number 4000-24.
Chandra Harjani,
Yes.
Gary Rosen,
Yes.
Regina Truitt.
Yes.
Priscilla Saraf,
Yes.
Jessica Blatt.
Yes. Next up, we have calendar 4009-24, that's 87 Great Hills Road. Who's eligible?
The same people.
Okay, any corrections or changes? Would someone like to make a motion?
A motion to approve calendar 4009-24.
Would someone second that?
Second.
Chandra Harjani,
Yes.
Gary Rosen.
Yes.
Regina Truitt.
Yes.
Priscilla Saraf,
Yes.
Jessica Blatt.
Yes. Okay, so a few housekeeping matters. The first is that calendar 3974-24. The property location is 389 Milburn Avenue. The applicant is 389 Milburn Avenue LLC. That matter is being carried to a later date. We don't have the date yet.
They're gonna republish your notice.
Okay.
We don't have a date.
So if anyone's here for that, we will not be hearing that tonight. The second is that our board attorney has a conflict on what's scheduled to be the last application of tonight. That's calendar 4016-24. The property location is 35 Main Street, and the applicant is Willow Milburn LLC. So we are going to be hearing that matter first, so that our board attorney can have his replacement come in, and then he will be back to join us.
Right, so Alex Fisher is here, and he's going to be presiding over that application as the attorney for the board. I'm going to be stepping outside in the hallway until that application is concluded. Okay. So Alex, you can come up so we can do that first.
Yes.
Yes.
You can hand them out. Yeah.
So, okay, so just to clarify, who's here?
Hi, good evening. Corey Klein from Sills, Cummins and Gross on behalf of the applicant, Willow Milburn LLC, doing business as Willow and Whisk.
Okay,
May I proceed?
yes.
Thank you. We submitted an application for a variance pursuant to NJSA 40:55D-70C in connection with the proposed installation of two channel letter signs on the existing steel canopies affixed to the existing building located at 35 Main Street and identified as Lot 12 in Block 1212, 1212 on the township tax maps. The property is located in the B4 zoning district. The applicant seeks a variance from section 609.10A of the Milburn Township Code pursuant to subsection C of the MLUL to permit the canopy signs. Although the signage complies with the code in terms of size, type, and design, the code is silent on whether signage is allowed to sit on a canopy as opposed to being flush with the facade of the building. We have served notice by certified mail and published notice of the hearing, and we've submitted proof of such publication and service to the board, and we would ask that the board acknowledge receipt and that jurisdiction is proper.
I read the notice, jurisdiction is proper.
I just have one witness tonight. This is Mr. Anthony DiBenedetto Jr. from Willow and Whisk. Have him sworn in.
Let's, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this matter, so help you God?
I do.
You're sworn.
Okay, Mr. DiBenedetto, what is your position with Willow and Whisk?
I'm one of the owners.
Okay, and if you could briefly describe your background and the history of the current location.
Sure.
And the existing location elsewhere in New Jersey.
Sure. So we're currently building out a restaurant on the site of the former Charlie Brown's. It's called Willow and Whisk. It's a breakfast and lunch restaurant. We have another location in Wyckoff that's been open for about 4 years. We do only breakfast and lunch. We try to do it like an elevated breakfast and lunch, so your standard fare, just a little bit nicer. We came to Milburn. I think it's a great town. You know, it really has the aesthetics and the population that we're looking for that I think would appreciate what we're looking to open. And as I'm sure you guys know from driving around the former Charlie Brown's, the landlord, Mr. Heller, has done a lot to improve that corner, and I think it would be a great fit for us.
Okay, thank you. And before I started, we were handing out, this is 2 sheets. This is exactly what was in the application packages. Yeah, I don't know if it needs to
They're
be
just-
marked.
this is well off of-
Yeah, it's exactly the last 2 sheets of the application package. If everyone wants to take 2 and pass them down, I just blew it up to 11 by 17 so everybody could see what's being proposed. So as I said previously, we're seeking a variance pursuant to 609.10A of the Milburn Code. And the signage otherwise complies, but because it sits on the canopy, that's why we are seeking the relief. Now, as you can see, there are 2 signs. So why don't I take this from you as testimony? What are so why are we proposing the 2 signs?
The 2 signs that we're proposing are looking to go on the canopy. This way we can better get both sides of the corner with signage and not have to kind of reduce and be more efficient with our overall signage by being able to put it on top of the canopies.
Okay, so what we're requesting is a C2 variance, which is the flexible zoning criteria. We submit that the purposes of zoning are advanced and the benefits of deviating from the ordinance outweigh the detriments. The variance application must also describe the negative criteria, which I'll have Mr. DiBenedetto address. And so, Mr. DiBenedetto, if you could talk a little bit about the aesthetics of the sign. Why did you choose the lettering, et cetera? And does it comply in all other respects with the ordinance?
Sure. The signage, as you see in the pictures, is a pretty basic white channel letter sign. Each letter will be individually lit inside. It's going to sit in a racetrack, which will provide the support and the power for it. We thought it's, a pretty standard but slightly elegant sign, nothing too flashy or anything like that. And that's why we're looking to have that sign.
And is there other signage in Milburn that you're aware of that similarly has is placed on top of canopies?
Yes, I believe the Charles Schwab, the building that has Charles Schwab on it has a very similar, larger, I believe, signage than we're looking to do, but the same idea that it's sitting on top of their canopy.
Okay, I have no further questions for Mr. DiBenedetto. If the board or the board's professionals or your attorney have any questions?
Do we have any questions from the board?
Question about the lighting.
Mhm.
So you said the light is gonna be inside each letter? So
Yeah.
it's not shining up into the air? It's just.
No, each letter is a 3D letter, and the face of it that's white is opaque, so that's where the light will shine.
And will it be on a timer or on 24 hours?
It'll be on a timer. So
On a timer.
on a timer.
Do you know when they're gonna turn off or on?
I would assume we'd set it up for something like dusk till dawn. Something like
Just till
that.
dawn, so it would be on
Yeah.
a night, but are there any residences near there?
It is mixed use, so there are some. I can definitely put it on a less of a, more restrictive timer if.
I think,
you guys
but
like.
actually, I don't know if there's any residents.
There's-
There's
Well, the-
apartments upstairs,
But not-
which are under construction.
Oh, there will be apartments on top of this.
Where the signage is on the building, there's no apartments directly above, but it's the same building, just a different part of it next to it that'll have apartments. Across the street, I'm not sure. I think there's some apartments across the street.
Oh, there will be apartments. Okay, so you would consider maybe turning them off?
Definitely.
Midnight. something
Sure.
like that, or 11.
Yeah, would not be opposed to that at all.
Okay.
I don't think, we're not too worried about who's out at, 12, 1 in the morning, making sure they see that we're available for breakfast and lunch.
What are your hours of operation if it's breakfast and lunch?
8 a.m. to 3 p.m. every day.
Are the letters on the numbers that they put on the pictures, are they to scale? Is this how it's gonna look, or-
I believe they are, if not exactly to scale, very close to scale. That was the intention of that drawing.
But the size is compliant with
The size is otherwise compliant with the square footage that we have available, yes.
Any other questions? Do we have any questions from the audience? Any,
Questions or just straight comments?
this is just questions right now,
Comments later?
yes. And next will be, do we have any comments from the audience?
And
Come on down.
My name is.
You have to be sworn.
Okay.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth with regard to this matter, so help you God?
I do, sir.
All right, you are sworn.
Just your name and address for the record.
My name is Robert Engel. Engel is spelled E-N-G-E-L. My business address is directly across the street on Main Street, 46 Main Street. My home address is 4 Gallo Way, Edison, New Jersey.
Thank you.
I would just like to urge the board to pass this variance. This is a welcome addition. Charlie Brown's sat empty for a long time. I don't even know how many years it was, but a long time. Mr. Heller put a lot of resources into this building, including his time. He's there every day when I go to work. I'd like to welcome Willow and Whisk and wish you much success in your new location. They've both the owner of the building and the tenant have done a wonderful job, and I look forward to being their neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Engel.
Any comments from board members?
I'm excited to have it open.
Welcome addition to our.
We're gonna close the public portion. And actually, now you can.
I'll repeat, I'm looking forward to this business.
Thank you.
Welcome addition to the neighborhood. So.
Thank you very much. We're excited to be here and be a part of the community here.
Can I just ask in terms of the regulations around the sign, it's been represented that there is no prohibition, express prohibition on a sign being on the canopy. Is that right? Whether that's me, you, or council, but I just want to be clear what the rules are. I think the sign is tasteful and I don't have a problem with it, but I just want to understand what the rule is.
I mean, I did look at the orders, I didn't see any reference to canopies for signage. So it would be a C2 variance.
Got it. Okay. Thanks.
Any other comments?
So just one more thing, he did testify that there is a similar signage at Schwab that we approved a few months ago, so I think it will fit right in town.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
Can't wait to.
I can second.
Joseph Caulfield,
Yes.
Chandra Ragani,
Yes.
Amy Lawrence. Yes. Gary Rosen.
Yes.
Regina Truitt,
Yes.
Priscilla Surratt,
Yes.
Jessica Glad.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next Monday. Yeah.
Wow.
So, thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, no. Thank you so much. Recommended all the time. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Did Charlie Brown's, they had a letter, they sold it first time.
Alex, thank you.
Thank you.
Let me tell you something, you can take a vote. Somebody has to make a motion.
Is he cheaper?
I can answer first. And the wall might be answered. A little anxious. We're all ready to go.
We're drinking pancakes.
You got some heavy hitters?
Yeah, lucky us. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, next up, we have calendar 4011-24. The location is 159 Hobart Avenue, and it's Amaral. Okay,
Yeah, they're organized. Do you swear from testimony you're about to give in tonight's proceeding be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
We'll just go down the line with it.
Rich Keller, Keller.
Patricia Emerald.
Timothy Klesse.
Flavio Amaral.
Thank you.
Okay. Patricia's gonna start, then I'm gonna go real quick, and then we'll go to Rich.
I just wanted to thank the board for taking this matter tonight. We have been living in town for 7 years, since 2017. This is our first house in town. It's my first house my whole life. I've lived in apartment buildings ever since before, and we moved here. We fell in love with the house. It's a historical house. It's very charming, very lot of personality, and we have improved it and cared for it all of those years. What we are trying to do now is to add a floor bedroom. Both our parents, like his mother and my parents, are older. We don't have today a room that can accommodate them on the first floor. It's getting harder for them to go upstairs. As a whole house, it's not really easy to go up and down. So we want to add this bedroom. We've been through the Historical Society, who has approved our plans, and we are here today to ask you for approval on the zoning matters. And Tim and Rich will help us present the case.
Thank you.
Should I get?
Applications.
Yeah,
please.
I'm a licensed architect in New Jersey and New York and been licensed for 30 years. My license is in good standing, and I've appeared in front of this board on numerous occasions and many other boards. Thank you. The only thing that,
I'm sorry, Tim, just one
Excuse me.
second. So this is an application that includes an FAR variance?
yes,
Right, so the board just should be reminded that they need 5 affirmative votes for approval of the application. Go ahead.
the only thing that Patricia forgot to tell you is that her parents aren't in Chatham. Her parents are in Brazil, and so are his parents. So when they come up, they're here for a couple of weeks. I mean, they're not like going home after dinner. I just, and that's kind of why we want to make this accommodation into this house. Okay. The site is 159 Hobart, and it's on the corner there going right up into Wyndham. It's an R4. The lot area is only about 11,248 square feet, and it's required to be 20,000. But I'm going to really lay off of the planning sort of testimony because Rich will pick it all up for us. But this is a colonial revival. That's the original farmhouse for that kind of neighborhood there. And it was built in about 1860. And it's still in pretty good shape and actually restored well on the inside. A lot of it done by these guys since they moved in. And what we're asking for tonight is to add really a bedroom and a bathroom on the first floor. This is also a corner lot, right there in the corner of Wyndham. If I go to my HPC 1 sheet, there's, on the left side is the existing survey, and on the right side is the proposed. And you can see on my right side, on the right side sheet, that if I come up or I come on Hobart, the sort of paddle courts for the Rackets Club are right across the street to like this which I think was a little development at one time. And they built those little piers. I don't think they were actually part of the original farm, but we are restoring one of those piers as part of this work and went to the commission, and I have a little detail of it if you want to see what we're doing, but we're rebuilding and restoring that pier. But then we come up and on the Wyndham side, we want to remove an existing patio that's actually kind of a non-conforming element in the front yard and replace that patio with this one-story building. And so that's why our lot coverage, which is actually over, is not being intensified. However, it's just being sort of flipped because we're adding additional building coverage as we remove some of the lot coverage. But Rich will go into it in better detail than I, but it's really a one-story addition. I come to my first floor plan, my next sheet. I'm now the Wyndham side is on the bottom of the sheet. And you can see all we did was take this area, this sort of negative space between the family room, which at one time was the garage. I converted to a family room, I don't know, I would think about 20 years ago. And in front of that, we're adding a bedroom, a little study alcove, and a bathroom, and expanding the existing laundry area on that floor. And it'll give us a first floor bedroom that's accessible really right off of the kitchen. So this is a house with very narrow old stairs that are very difficult to get up. It actually has a bedroom on the third floor, which is, I'd say, kind of difficult to get to. Like, it's very narrow, very tight, very low headroom. So by being able to do this, we can actually create a workable bedroom on the first floor and leave the rest of the structure intact as it was. And that's kind of what's leading to our big push in terms of the coverages. You know, we have a big porch which we're retaining, and also some additional spaces that are sort of being reused as part of this being a historic building that we don't really want to do much interior alteration to. I go to my elevations on the, what we call the right side is really the Wyndham side. And you can see that we've actually added a one-story element right here to the kind of right of the primary building, put windows in to match, put our siding in to match, took all of our materials and matched it in such a way that this will look as if this addition was added, you know, in a year, or could have been added 50 years ago. I guess it couldn't have been added, well, I guess it couldn't have been added 100 years ago. But that's it for my presentation. And then on my last sheet is this little pier, which this is really an exhibit board that I don't think you have. So I'd like to mark it as A1.
So just describe, Tim, what that is it a series of 4 photos and a detail, right?
Yes, of the existing pier there's a pair of piers at the entrance to Wyndham. And I took these photos about 4 months ago before we went to the Historic Commission. We got approved by the Historic Commission on August 1st, actually. And there's these 2 little brick and stone piers that have to say Wyndham on them, or the left one says Wyndham. And we are really rebuilding the one on the left. And we have done a little detail of how the existing pier is so that we could rebuild, and the Historic Commission's approved it. And, so we're kind of, this pier is actually on the town's properties. It's in the right of way of the street. It's a little bit like, my client is kind of doing a favor, a little bit for the town. I guess I'd like to say. I think that's the only reason why I'm showing it to you this evening.
Do they need to get approval from the town?
Yes, and we've had that. We've gone through all of that.
Oh, you already have that.
Yeah, so I've handled that. So with that in mind, I'd like to turn it over to Rich unless there's any
Great.
questions.
Wrap up yours, Tim. What, are you re-siding the whole house? You're doing, what's
No.
the exterior finish gonna be?
We're
Same?
gonna, it's existing wood,
Right.
wood
Clapboard.
shakes and clapboard, and we're just continuing the clapboard. All the materials on the outside are matching existing.
Just before you turn it over, any questions from the audience for the architect?
Good evening. As you know, my name is Rich Keller. I am the engineer and planner, tonight primary planner for the applicant. I have a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering with concentration in water resources and water resources and environmental engineering. And I also hold a master's degree in architecture from New Jersey Institute of Technology with a declared concentration in urban planning and design, where I also taught in the adjunct, as an adjunct professor in the architecture division for approximately 11 years, both undergraduate and graduate, again in the School of Architecture and Planning. I have appeared before this board, the planning board, approximately 110 boards throughout the state of New Jersey. I've also provided professional planning services to the Township of Caldwell, and I've been the engineer for the Planning Board and Board of Adjustment for the Township of Long Hill for 3 years. I just gave that up last year. My licenses are in good effect, and it's nice to be back.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have 2 exhibits this evening. I'm going to mark them both and off to start. This is the A2. This is an annotated aerial photograph. Image is taken from nearmap.com, an area map subscription service. The capture date was actually October 5th of this year, 2024. The exhibit was prepared by my office, November 18th, 2024. The tax map lines are taken off of the township digital tax maps, and it's combined with some of the survey information from our survey, which was on Tim's lead sheet. That would be my A2, and then I also have A3. A3 is a site photo board. All photos were taken by myself, actually, either Saturday or today. So they do reflect the site as it exists today. I'll go over that in a few minutes. And then I do have an A4, which is a landscape plan drawn by Barry Greenberg. This is the A4. I'll take these today. Site development planting plan, Birch Hill landscaping. It has no date, but I will put today's date on it. As Tim indicated, the site is at the northwest corner of Hobart and Wyndham Road. It is approximately 335 feet to the west of the intersection of southwest from Highland and Hobart. As Tim said, it's directly behind the Short Hills Rackets Club. Paddle tennis, pool, et cetera, are on the right side of the drawing. Wyndham Road is a private road, comes up. As was indicated, there are two stone piers that were built in the late 1800s, indicating the Wyndham subdivision. It is unique in the area because it's small, charming little lots. The lots are really more akin to the R6 zone, which is the South Mountain zone, that requires 6,000 square feet. You've got some lots that are 6,000 square feet, 7,000 square feet, 7,000 square feet, and some do get a little larger because they get cheaper. But it is wholly located in the R4 residential zone, as is the Short Hills Rackets Club. The property, as indicated, is a designated site, as are all of the homes along Wyndham, are designated sites in the Short Hills Park Historic District. And as Tim indicated, as such, these plans have been fully vetted and actually developed with some input from the HPC as well as Barton Ross, their advisor. The property is an irregularly shaped rectangular lot. It's about 153 feet of frontage along Wyndham Road and about 75 feet of frontage along Hobart. The depth, the perpendicular depth between Wyndham and what's the functional rear, or technically a side yard, but the functional rear yard is 73 feet. The lot contains, as Tim said, 11,248 square feet in an R4 zone that requires 20,000, so we're about 56% of the required lot area, so we're considerably undersized. And that shallow depth to Wyndham means that if you apply the 40-foot setback and the 22-foot setback to a rear yard, you're left with about 11.4 by 90-foot permitted building envelope within the zone. That's the dashed line you see kind of cutting through the house. I would point out that area, that odd long area, is about 1,025 square feet. Just the wraparound porch alone is 450 square feet, almost 460 square feet. So roughly 1/3 of the allowable coverage. It's just taken up in the open porch. So clearly, it's an undersized lot, and when we look at both setbacks as well as coverages, I will preview my planning testimony. There could be some hardships or significant conditions created by the fact that we have an undersized lot with peculiar shape and that it's very shallow, as well as the location of a lawful existing structure on the site, all make it difficult to add to this property without seeking variance relief. I would point out with regard to that setback, the existing house is at 19.83, as shown on the first on the survey and Tim's sheet. The average, Tim did an average that went from our house and did 4 houses up and around the left side of Wyndham. That average came out to be, I believe it was 19. 19.75 was the average coming around there. 19.77 was the average. But technically, we do have that new ordinance that allows you to use your side of the street up to a corner lot. So it's really only 2 properties. You don't get to use your house, and when you only have one remaining, one lot is not allowed to be considered prevailing, so you default back to the 40-foot requirement. So instead of the prevailing requirement of 19.77, we do have to go up to 40, which obviously, as I said, if you went 40 feet and a 22.5-foot setback to the side yard, you'd have only 11 feet for a building. So again, the undersized irregularly shaped lot, as well as the location of the lawfully existing structure on the property, we think creates some practical difficulties into the home without the need for variance relief. I will go to the photo board, which is A3 quickly. And you can see from Hobart, you can see the 1800s farmhouse that was probably the anchor for the whole development as the properties were developed up and around the private road known as Wyndham. You can see it has a generous wraparound porch across the front, and continues up the sideline. It is 2 stories with some nested space in the attic. It is, you look at it, photograph number 2, looking northwest from the intersection, and you can see that wraparound porch continues that open airy space around, and then it's a solid section that is blocked with some trees, and then it gives way to, if we come around further onto Wyndham, photograph number 3, this is looked directly from Wyndham. You can see that generous wraparound porch with the side stairs and access out to the driveway. Again, that solid section that we're extending is somewhat blocked by the existing landscaping. I'll go over the proposed landscaping in a minute. And if we look finally, we continue up Wyndham, and we look back down to the south, you can see this is the nook in which we're planning on adding the addition. So right now there is a garden brick wall. There's a combination of slate, stone, and plantings in that area. That basically is about the 390 square feet that we are putting a house on. If we look at the there is some planted area up there, but we're also reducing the amount of the sidewalk on the front. It's no longer necessary to make that loop into the front yard patio. So the combination of the reduction of the sidewalk as it extends out to the driveway and the removal of some landscape area, they net off so that there's a 5 square foot decrease in impervious, but we're just gonna call it a wash. That's the way we noticed it.
Rich, is the landscaping that you referenced, is that going to be removed as part of this?
Yeah, what's shown in this little nook, that's where the house is going. And it's been very careful. I know Tim studied a lot of roof lines and went over a number of options with HPC, and they really want us to continue the same slope that's over the roof. It's hard to see in these pictures, but the same slope that continues up to the roof continues along the addition, and that just infills where that brick wall is, and that L is about 390 square feet. They didn't want any raised roofs. They thought it was more particularly correct with the style of the house just to continue that on, and so that's what's been doing. There is some detailing, et cetera, in corners, but essentially it's an extension. We thought, I think in addition to the difficulty in the very narrow 1800 stairs, we actually felt it was a better condition to put that bedroom in that little nook, and I'll show you why in a second, rather than trying to extend a roof line that didn't exist over either that connector space or over the garage, which would not have increased building coverage, but it would have been a much greater imposition to the neighbor behind. If we go back to the aerial, you'll see that I've got neighbors that are directly behind us here, in the backyard here, and so the decision was made that this was a much less impactful area to put that one-story addition in that little crook where there's an existing patio, existing front yard patio is non-conforming, so we're eliminating a non-conforming condition in the front yard, putting the addition there, keeping it away from having to complicate the roof line or create more mass that would create some shade and shadow onto the adjoining property. So it was really the most benign location to put it, is where we showed it. If we look at just to go over the proposal, one last section is these. I think I'm a planner and an engineer. I'm not a landscape guy. I think they're Amelanchier, but they're green stuff. And they do a good job of actually blocking some of that little planar facade there. The plan developed by Barry Greenberg basically calls for, in lieu of that, which actually does not have a good presence in the winter, is to replace that with a mix of alternating hybrid rhododendron and andromeda. Those hybrid rhododendron will grow up to be 7 to 8 feet tall, so they'll provide some relief along that flat section. They can space so they don't block individual windows. So they'll help to break down that facade and widen that facade that was shown on I think second to last drawing. So I won't get a pen out because then I'll have to mark it as an exhibit, but essentially those will come out and they will form evergreen branches that will grow 7 to 8 feet in height. They'll grow as much as 8 feet in the base, so they'll start to enliven that facade there or help to block that facade. It's funny because we had some plans of pushing that facade back, trying to manipulate the roof lines. And HPC was pretty adamant that this was their preference because it was the most historically correct. So that's what we did. And we got their approval, and we figured they're the body who is probably first and foremost, besides this board, expected to guard the character of the neighborhood. So Tim basically complied with that. So that's the landscape plan. It's basically typical foundation plantings, except that we're going to add those rhododendrons, which will get a little more 7 to 8 feet height along with foundations, replacing what I think or might be Amelanchier right there. Amelanchier don't do well over time, and they don't do well. They don't provide any screening in the winter, so that would be we think is a better alternative, and it will help to break down that massing. So the relief we require from FAR is 26% is permitted. The existing is 24.5%. We are proposing 28%, so we're 2% over. That's the 390 square feet that we're adding. I would point out in the R5 zone, not even the R6 zone I mentioned before, the R5 zone where 14,500 square foot lots are the minimum, so we'd still be under that. 30% FAR is permitted. So 28% is certainly not out of character with the era of this home and the location of this home. Building coverage, 14% is permitted in the R4 zone. That's 1,575 square feet. The existing site is already over at 20.6%. And a lot of that is generated by that very generous wraparound porch, which does amazing things to break down the mass of that house by creating that diaphanous layering of space. Porches do wonderful, which is why they're not part of FAR, but they are part of building coverage, but they really actually help to break down the mass of the building. 20.6 or 2,327 square feet exists. We are proposing a 390 square feet, that same footprint bump. And that goes to 2717 or 24.1%. So we are over by 10.1%. If we go back to that R6 zone, 6,000 square foot lots, they allow 23% building coverage, and we have other extenuating circumstances. So we're in the neighborhood for lots that are expected to be about this size when conforming. The lot coverage, 35% is permitted in all the zones. We are at, that's 3,937. The existing house is 4,560, and we're keeping exactly that 4,560, which is 40.5%. So there's no change or zero increase. And again, same with building coverage. Lot coverage, a lot of it's generated by the fact that we have a series of walk. We have that generous wraparound porch, and then on the backside, they've tucked really the only entertaining space that's possible, and that's a patio on the left side. But because it's quite long, the house is quite long, the driveway is far end. By the time you add up all the screenings coverage, it's really generated by the fact we're a corner lot, an undersized corner lot. It helps drive the total lot coverage well over what's existing. But again, we've balanced that so there's no net increase, no net negative impact to the neighborhood, no effect on drainage, et cetera. And then finally, as I said, we need a variance for the minimum front yard setback. And that is where 40 feet is required, technically. 19.78 exists, 19.03 is proposed, so we are under by 0.75, that's 9 inches. I would argue that even driving 25 miles an hour, which you tend to do, believe it or not, on Wyndham, you'll never notice that 9 inches. It'll appear as though it's part of the house, as was Tim's goal in designing something that looks like has been part of the house for a long time. So as part of the planning proofs, obviously we need an FAR variance. That's an intensity variance that requires 5 affirmative votes. Unlike commercial FAR, which is considered to be a metric of the intensity of use of a property, residential floor area ratio is used as a measure of the mass of the dwelling. And the criterion for an FAR is addressed pursuant to the Randolph Town Center case, which follows Coventry Square, all the legal precedents. Under that criteria, the applicant must show that the site will continue to accommodate the problems usually associated with a floor area larger than that permitted by ordinance without substantial detriment to the neighborhood. And the usual problems with an FAR larger than what's permitted is overcrowding on the site, loss of air, light, and open space along the neighboring properties, and overwhelming the character or scale of the neighborhood. There's no hard criteria. I like doing FAR variances because there is no hard criteria. It's really a referendum on the existing architecture and the proposed architecture. And I've often said if you had 3 architects, you could all design houses with the same FAR, and you could have 3 very different looking houses. If you tore the house down, you could actually design something that would probably come much closer, maybe still in FAR, but certainly the goal was not to tear the existing house down, but work with the existing character of the home. I've often said that you can have 3 200-pound men. They can all have a very different appearance. An architect that I work with said basically the difference is whether you hit the gym in the morning or you hit the donut shop in the morning. But the reality is that 200 pounds may set off an alarm bell and say, we need to take a closer look at that. And so we need an FAR variance, which means we need to take a look at that. But does it overwhelm the neighborhood? And really not to get hung up on the numbers. And those numbers actually aren't that, they're not that crazy. Certainly they're consistent with lots of these sizes. So the standard for an existing dwelling becomes how well has the architect integrated the excess mass into the structure so as to maintain the character of the neighborhood. We think that the architect has certainly done that in the fact that he followed the HPC's directive to integrate the mass into the existing home on the first floor. The 1-story is consistent with the massing of the existing dwelling. The roof line matches both the wraparound porch and any past additions and its slope. And in a neighborhood where the adjoining homes are very close to the common property lines, this location and configuration we felt was the least impactful on the surrounding dwellings. So we think it meets the positive criteria, and I'll do all the negative criteria in a second. With regard to the lot coverage, building coverage, and front setback, we think it's a combination or can be approved under both C1 and C2. Under C1, 4055 D70 C1 applies where the undersized nature of the lot, along with the location of the configuration of the lawfully existing dwelling, creates a hardship in upgrading the existing property without the need for variance relief. And a C2, 4055 D70 C2, notice the flexible C variance where the plan as proposed represents a better planning alternative than one that might conform or come closer to conformity. And this applies when the purposes of the Land Use Act are advanced and the benefits resulting from the deviation outweigh any detriments. The benefits are generally considered when you advance the purposes of the Land Use Act at 4055 D2. We think that we advance 2 sections of that. Section A is general welfare, is that we are contemporizing the home with regard to the amenities that many people seek in the current age. And we're eliminating a front yard patio, which brings the site closer into conformance with the zoning ordinance. We're also ensuring air, light, and adequate space to the adjoining properties. And we are also preserving and conserving an historic home by both making an addition that meets HPC's guidelines, as well as we are, through the Township Committee's approval and HPC's approval, we're also repairing the gate at the front entrance. We think that the location of the addition is better than a 2-story increase in the massing, which would have negative impact on the neighbor 165 Hobart, which is right behind us. I showed you earlier. We think that the existing facade line triggers the 9-inch deviation from the average setback. So we're just keeping existing. We extend along. we end up with a 9-inch deviation from the average, something like a 20-some deviation from the 40-foot. But we think, again, the benefits of maintaining that outweigh the detriment. With regard to the negative criteria, we see that there is no substantial detriment to public good. The architect, again, worked with HPC to yield a home that is architecturally cohesive to the original and feels appropriate to the site. And again, as I said, HPC is the body that we look for first and foremost in the Short Hills and the Wyoming District to give us guidance on ensuring that any modifications to these grand old houses within our community are consistent with the neighborhood and done in a manner that's respectful of the age of the home. We also think there's no substantial detriment to the, no substantial impairment to the master plan. We think that there's nothing inconsistent. I'm not going to go through all the sections, I think, why we're consistent, but there's nothing I can see that was inconsistent. This proposal allows for the improvement of the dwelling without impacting the scale or character of the neighborhood. And we believe with Daniel's Law, I can't always get accurate building coverages anymore or FARs anymore because they've been tied to owners' names. And I can't, without surveying, I can't get surveys of these properties, though I have done a few. But I think that just surveying the overall survey and looking at other coverages, patios, et cetera, we feel that the amount and extent of the FAR, building coverage and lot coverage relief, is actually similar to others on the street. And we think certainly the location will have no negative impact. I'm happy to answer any questions.
In terms of floor area and building coverage, right? So those are the biggest deviations. Regarding those other properties in the R4 that you said are more like R6, did he do a review to determine whether there are similar deviations for building coverage and FAR?
As I said, I could not get the property data records for all these buildings, but let me see, I think I've got I know that across, so we're looking for a 28%.
You're looking for 28% FAR and 24.1% building.
I know the house at 10 Wyndham was denied an FAR variance where they had existing was something like 52.9 and they were looking up to 53.4. So those are numbers that are double ours.
That's for FAR?
That's for FAR, yeah. That's from the resolution for Victor and Greta Lander, calendar number 3694-19 from October 2019. That was their third separate application. That was a denial on the FAR requested.
And for the board's edification, the significance is not so much that the application was denied, but that the existing FAR is over 50% for that neighboring property.
Yeah, the existing dwelling was 51.9%, and they were going up. And I know, if you bear with me, I think they had similar, I think they had pretty extensive building coverage variance too, but. Yeah, I don't have the numbers. They were at 37.8% lot coverage. Because they took some patios up. I don't have the exact numbers, but I know their FAR was, even though it was denied, their existing FAR was almost double ours off the start. So again, not a whole lot of hard data available, except for the by resolution for lot 10. But in looking and walking the neighborhood and doing some other surveys, some of the lots as you get to the end get actually quite large, although they're impacted by wetlands quite a bit as you get to the terminus of the westerly terminus of Wyndham. They get to be large, but I guess they're impacted by wetlands as well. So, although I don't think they were thinking about the wetlands back in the 1870s, but but in the sort of micro neighborhood of the lots that form the entrance into Wyndham, I think we're similar on building coverage, similar on lot coverage, and we're actually under what they are in terms of FAR.
How many homes are we talking about that have access from Wyndham?
I believe there are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's actually 14. Starts with 1 or 14, actually minus 2. So there are 11 lots that have frontage on there.
The one with the 51% FAR that you mentioned across from the applicant's home, is that similar size or the lot size is it?
That one is actually just about 6,000 square feet. So we're bigger than that. We're at 50 some. So if you count the fact that we're about double that, that means, our square footage is, our FAR is probably something, in terms of raw numbers, is probably something very close. Let me see if I can get that for you. Yeah, their house, as it exists on a site that's half our size, they're 3,102 square feet, and as proposed, we're 3,148. So within 45 square feet of each other. But again, we're on a site that's half the size. So the homes are, the proposed FAR in terms of sheer numbers is about what exists right across the street. In our proposed condition is roughly analogous to what exists there today. It's just we're on a site that's nearly double the size.
Rich, you said the Historic Preservation Committee said that you should maintain that setback, right? You mentioned something about stepping it back, but they would prefer that you keep it out.
Yeah, that was my first comment to Tim. Can't we set that back a foot and jog it, or put a jog, go 1 foot back, 2 foot over, come back? And he said, we tried all that with HPC, and this was their preferred, and this is what they approved. And so
That impacts the setback and also the FAR as well.
yeah, because we looked, the first reason was to set it back a foot, just to at least match, so we're going 9 inches closer than what exists now. If you set it back a foot, you wouldn't have increased that, exacerbated, but HPC, that was their preference. So I will say sometimes when HPC says they want us to be historically correct, I ask where that outhouse goes, but I get myself in trouble. So, yes.
Are you losing some windows? It looks like when you're adding this from the I don't know what room that is, but by adding this, are you losing some windows on that one side?
Yeah.
And the family.
So in your opinion, what is driving the FAR? Because obviously it's existing, it's compliant, but now you're going up to 2%. It's just it's not the porch.
Yeah, I mean, it's the fact that, if the original house had been more compact, if the garage had been brought in with some of the existing bedrooms over the top of it, it could have been more compact. So you're dealing with, what was probably on a much larger home before the Wyndham subdivision. And so it kind of ran on with an attractive 2-story farmhouse, wraparound porch that gave way to, 1-story low slung buildings to the back. And again, if it was done today, they probably would have tried to, force a garage under. You could park up there, you could have picked it up, forced the garage under. There's a number of things they would have done to try to incorporate this garage. But you're dealing with an existing footprint, we're dealing with existing HVAC, existing stairway. So really, there's no way to add something to the first floor. Any of the second floor would have really killed a lot of those roof lines in the back of the building. So to take a bedroom, put it up there, even to try to find an elevator spot, would have kind of destroyed all the roof lines as this house comes into the back where it meets into the 1-story. So the decision was made pretty quickly, and I think HPC reinforced the fact that they did not want to see a vertical addition because it would further. We are losing some windows in the back of the family room. These two right here. Losing 2-story here, but I think all in all, it's a better composition.
I think the first floor has an extra about 300 square feet of it. it's almost like all of this area is a little bit wasted space. If I look at this plan, like if we could,
This area.
all of this stair, hallway,
The mudroom that
corridor.
runs along the right side forms a circulation corridor along the living room and dining room. So that's kind of traditional of an historic home to have that circulation spot that comes back into the kitchen. In a more contemporary home, that would have been probably condensed. And the stairwell incorporated differently. And much of that mudroom could have gone away and been brought back into either an enfilade situation where you go through the dining room, or you create a second passage along the dining room into the living room. So you've got another stair. So there's a number of things that are, Tim and I did go over earlier, but Tim just said, they're wasteful in the existing home. But, and again, I think today, you probably wouldn't see, and it doesn't affect the FAR, but what kind of collapses that all in is that very generous porch. And these days, we're lucky if we get a 6-foot porch. This is more like an 8-foot porch and a 7.5-foot porch, so it's much more generous. So it's that combination of the historic floor plan as well as the porch that all kind of adds pressure and probably is wasteful on some of the square footages. And in an old home, you really can't start taking away it's very difficult to start ripping out circulation corridors, stairways, HVAC without having a net negative impact on the structure.
And the lot coverage is, you're just maintaining what's existing?
Yeah, we're over, but we're maintaining, exactly. Well, we're 5 foot square foot less, actually.
Because there's a lot of patios, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're existing tucked in the back.
So how many bedrooms do you have currently?
Nothing. My second floor. You guys, how many bedrooms?
2 normal bedrooms, and 2 small in the attic. So basically 2 normal sized bedrooms in the second floor. Then the third floor, there's another staircase. And it's like an attic, 2 small little,
And the roof is lanted, and
yeah.
if
so
you're
it's
very tall, you can.
So 2 regular sized bedrooms.
2 regular sized and then 2 very small, yeah.
So if there's 4 existing bedrooms, which makes this the 5th. In terms of usable bedrooms, there's 2 who are making the 3rd. But technically, if you count the 2 small bedrooms with lacking the ceiling height, that's 4 plus 1 is 5. Or as we said, for real people, not Lilliputian people, you've got 2 regular and 1 on the first floor, that makes 3.
And one other question for me, can you see this addition, or will you be able to see this addition from home?
No, you technically could when the Amelanchiers come down, you'll be able to see the addition. With the Amelanchiers in place, you won't. But once we put the proposed vegetation back in, I think you would actually have to start driving up Wyndham to be able to see this addition. Otherwise, the proposed landscaping is going to block that, certainly in perspective. So as you drive by on Hobart, you will not see the current infill or the extension for the 390 square feet. They'll kind of be covered by landscaping. But if you turn up, you will be able to see it.
Any other questions? Any questions from the audience? Any comments? Okay, I'm going to close the public portion.
One thing I would ask before we close public,
Yeah.
since it is a D variance, we would love to get maybe some input or hear the board's testimony on their opinions on the FAR.
No testimony.
Not testify. Your opinions on the FAR, maybe in the straw vote, so we know if you want us to go back and try to change something, we can. It would mean going back to HPC, but we'd certainly love to see a bifurcated vote. Thank you.
May I ask just one question?
Sure.
So this addition that we are creating, how close is this to the nearest neighbor? I know it's in line with that side of the home, but just curious.
Hopefully I have my scale here. Hold on a second. Yeah, that'll work. So from the addition to the neighboring house is approximately 60 feet. So the closest part from the addition to the neighboring house is, this house is actually kind of got a long planar back wall, and a patio. There's a little bit of parallax view, but I would say it's between 58 and 60 feet from addition to the closest part of the adjoining house in a zone that you would normally see for one-story houses. In the R4, you'd expect to have at least 30 feet of separation. For two-story, you want 44 feet of separation. So we've got some 58 to 60 feet of separation.
And in terms of the house on the other side of the window, is that probably the same as?
Yeah, so to the other house, to the covered porch, you've got about 65 feet. And all of the other homes, as I said, are considerably less. You know, you've got an existing home to the covered porch that is 10 feet off the line, that is 15 feet off the line. So it's a neighborhood that was built long before we had 40-foot setbacks from the zone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so public portion is closed, and I'd like to hear some comments from board members.
I'll go first. First of all, so such a charming house, and what a cute neighborhood. I made the mistake of going up Wyndham and getting stuck up there, so I'm like, okay, don't do that, but so cute. When I saw the variances requested, at first I went eek, because it's a lot, but it is a challenging lot. I agree with what you're saying, that it's a narrow lot, it's challenging. I don't think this is going to impact the neighbors. There's no neighbors here tonight complaining or expressing concerns, so I would be in favor of approving this application.
No, I would agree. I would be supportive of the application. I think, I actually think the requests are not particularly large. And I think the lot can handle that, and I don't think that the addition would in any way materially add to the bulk of the house or make it look out of character with the neighborhood. So, I think it's tastefully done, and I think it, I don't think it creates any issues for the neighborhood so I would be supportive.
And I would echo those comments. In addition to that, I think this is in R4 we see 20,000 size, which is normal, and this is at about a little over half, maybe 60%. So from that perspective too, if you were to take the proportion of 26% that's permissible, you would fall probably close, if not lower, than what that would be permitted. And given that this is historic, it was built much before any of the new developments were done, or newer developments were done. I think this seems like it could work, although the numbers seem pretty high. I could be supportive of it.
All right. I can see this two ways. I can see it the way that you all are saying, and on top of that, I could see, I appreciate that that HPD's already weighed in on this plan, that they like the way it's laid out, and potentially it's nice not to have a patio in what is the front yard. So I see all of that, and I could get on board with that. On the other hand, I can see that it's already significantly over lot and building coverage. And I think about, well, what's the reason for doing this? And what happens in the long term with this? And so the reason that was stated for doing this is because parents are coming up for a couple weeks to stay with you. And I wonder, is that a reason that we typically grant for these kinds of FAR variances? And then it runs with the house permanently, with the land permanent. So I'm kind of like, I'm not 100%.
We don't really look at the reason why.
Yeah.
So
I guess
wants to
so.
do
Well,
this.
is the hardship or some significant, like,
the hardship has nothing to do with the fact that you have your parents or in-laws coming in from Brazil.
No,
for
that's
2
my
weeks.
break.
Right.
So-
So the issue that has been presented is whether you can find for the applicant based on either C1, which is a hardship because of the existing conditions of the land or the existing structures that are on the property, or under C2, where you're ultimately determining that the proposal represents a better zoning alternative for the property. So this is better than if the applicant were to fully comply
And
with
build
the ordinance, which, well, depending on what they would come back with. Right, and there was some testimony from Mr. Keller and Mr. Klesse that basically said, if you built up that, maybe you would do a little bit better with the numbers technically, but that it may not be as good for the neighborhood and visually,
Well,
maybe detriment. Yeah.
and I hear that, and so maybe it doesn't further exacerbate, I guess, building coverage, but it does probably still trigger an FAR variance.
Right, and with regard to the FER variance, which is the D4 variance, you're determining, as Mr. Keller stated, whether the lot can accommodate the addition. So,
Right.
frankly, and I tell other boards, when you're driving by, if you look over and you were gonna say, ooh, that seems like a lot for that lot, a lot of building for that lot.
Right.
That sort of goes to, what the intent of the FAR regulation is, which is to prevent, as Mr. Keller said, overmassing on a particular lot.
So if I play that out further, I'm thinking it through with you right now. If I play it out further, probably I would be on board with this because from that second perspective, I don't think I think it's a good solution, potentially, if we think this is the right thing to do. But either way, it's gonna trigger variance and we have to make a decision.
Yeah, I mean, another thing that you might want to think about is that, not only are you, taking a non-compliant patio in the front yard and putting a one-story addition on it, but you're also not doing something, which is that you're not taking away from, let's say, backyard play space, right? So you have to, look at the lot, how it's being functional, both existing and proposed.
So I'll just say that I think sometimes it does get confusing because we'll have applicants who come before us and they give us a reason for wanting to do something, and we know as a board that we're not able to, take that into account when we're making our decision. But as Rob said, just because the applicant says that doesn't mean that we're actually considering it. So I'm the liaison from the zoning board to the HPC, and I had only kind of vaguely remembered this, one from my role on HPC. So I went back to see the house today, and I think that we see a 2% FAR, and without looking at the structure, I think our first instinct is, that's kind of big. But I know for myself, when I went and I looked at it, because it's being built over what's already, like a non-conforming patio, it's tucked away. So I think driving by, walking by, getting out of my car and walking by, I don't think that we're gonna have any massing problem here. So I would be comfortable approving the FAR as well as all of the other variances that are needed. And again, I know that sometimes there's like that push and pull with historic structures and needing to keep it, working historically, but also making it practical for, modern family who's living there. So I think that the applicant has done a really good job with that, and I'd be happy to support it. So, would you like us to proceed with a vote?
Yes, please.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll motion to approve the application.
Oh,
I can say.
great. Should we break it up with the FAR or?
I think that based on the comments, I don't know if you really need to,
Okay.
you can if you want to,
Okay.
but unless the applicant has a preference on that.
Okay. All right, we'll proceed with was keeping it all together.
Joseph Caulfield,
Yes.
Chandra Harjani,
Yes.
Amy Lawrence,
Yes.
Gary Rosen,
Yes.
Regina Truitt,
Yes.
Priscilla Sarab,
Yes.
Jessica Glad.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Full house.
Thank you. We love it.
So charming.
Yes.
We're gonna take like a 2-minute break if we need to. Okay.
All right,
Officially.
we're ready. Officially. Raise your right hand, please. You swear affirm testimony you're about to give in tonight's proceeding to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name for the record.
Yeah, Douglas Miller from AHM Architects, located at 281 Main Street, Millburn, New Jersey. Been practicing architecture since 1995, been licensed since 2000. My license is in good standing. I've made numerous presentations to this board as well as.
Yeah, you were, Mr.
Oh.
No, you were deemed accepted as an expert in the field of architecture when we were last, when the applicant was last before the board on October 7th, 2024, correct?
Correct, yes. We're returning after listening to all the board's comments last month, and we've made some adjustments. I'd like to go over those this evening.
Proceed, please.
Okay, so we considered all the feedback that you gave us and said, how can we really pare this down to be the bare minimum to achieve my client's goals while minimizing the degree of variance relief required? So I submitted some revised plans, and as you can see, we were asking for 5 variances last month, 4 C variances and 1 D variance. We eliminated all 4 C variances, and we only are now asking for the D variance. We could not eliminate the D variance because of the existing nonconformities on this property. So anything we did, any modification to the house would require a trip before this board to request variance, D variance relief for floor area ratio. So let me walk you through the drawings. This first sheet shows all the new numbers. What we've done.
So why don't you,
Yeah.
I know you submitted these to the board, Doug, but can you just identify, just as this is a continuation hearing,
Yes.
the date of the revised plans and the sheet number you're referring to?
Correct. This is sheet A1 of a revised set of drawings dated 10/31/24, and it's entitled for Zoning Board of Adjustment Comments. So the main changes, as you look at the proposed site plan on the far side of the sheet, we've eliminated the rear yard unoccupied variance and the lot coverage variance by eliminating the basement walkout that we had previously, as well as the path that connected that to the driveway. So the building coverage variance was eliminated since we are no longer changing the building coverage at all. We also eliminated the side yard setback, which was along the left side of the property. We were building up directly on top of an existing non-conforming first floor addition. So we've pulled that second floor addition in a little over 3 feet to have the conforming 12-foot side yard setback. And by bringing that side yard setback in to 12 feet, it's thus eliminated the side yard combined variance as well, because the total side yard is now conforming. Those were the main changes to the site plan. If we move on to sheet A2, the first floor plan proposed and existing remains unchanged. We're only renovating an existing sunroom. Sheet A3, this is where the change happened at the rear. There's an existing roof deck at the rear of the property that goes, that's approximately 8.2 feet from the property line, going across to the center line. And that's directly on top of the sunroom I just mentioned. What we're proposing to do is add a small study at the rear. It'll be a flex space to use for different functions. Since it is only really a 3-bedroom house on this lot, they needed a little bit extra space. So what we've done is built over the interior portion of the sunroom towards the left side property line, creating a room that is approximately 10'9" by 14'10". And that adds to the floor area ratio, thus requiring the variance. We previously requested a floor area ratio variance of 42.6%. Or 3,196 square feet, where 36% or 2,695 is allowed. We reduced that to 42% or 3,149. We're requesting an increase of the existing non-conforming floor area ratio of 2.4% or 180 square feet, which is really a small amount for this home. And so it's a total deviation of 6% or 454 square feet. Unfortunately, the planner that was with us last month unexpectedly was not able to join us this evening, but all his land use testimony that he presented last month still stands. And I just wanted to kind of reiterate a couple things and talk about the variances in general. So I really think that our site can accommodate the added mass. I think the planned addition being constructed over existing footprint is not negatively impacting the neighboring homes. By pulling the side yard setback in, we have conforming setbacks, so we won't be looming over the neighborhood. And we're also taking a roof deck, which can really be a source of frustration to have somebody up on the second floor looking over into your yard, over your landscape screening, where the noise can clearly travel when people are out there talking in the evening. Taking that space that already exists and converting it to interior space, which will add a lot more privacy, but also add more functionality and usefulness to this home. The metric is, as we go by the Rob Simon test, if you drive by the house and you go, oof, that site cannot handle that bulk. And I think that's something I showed last month with my testimony. And this was exhibit A1, was a photo board that I had put together, and we had already put that together. This is some neighborhood photos.
There's no changes.
No changes, exact same exhibit as last time. And you can see, if you drive through that neighborhood, the nice thing about historic towns and towns that have developed over time is there's a variety of architectural forms and styles. You might have some low-slung Cape Cod style house or cottage style house like our own, which is here on the upper left-hand corner. Those houses, in conjunction with more traditional two-story colonials or maybe more contemporary homes, give a mixed fabric to the community and takes away from that tract home development that a lot of houses you see in other neighborhoods that were all, say, built in the 1950s or all in the 1920s, where every house looks the same. And the South Mountain section was all really developed at the same time, but the houses have been tweaked and modified. And the planners who put that development together used a variety of different floor plans and scaled houses. And so when you look at our house, it really looks a lot smaller than other houses that are on this page that are conforming. So, this house here is conforming for everything, where this house would have a greater degree of variation, of deviation for FAR. And when you drive by, what we're proposing here is behind the main ridge line of the house. You cannot see it. It does not impact the community as a whole at all. And one other thing we did, just going back to our drawing, is the rear elevation. The board had commented last time that they thought the roof line was too tall and would be, looming over the neighborhood. So what we did here at the rear, it's just this small area is what we're asking for, the floor area variance. We really lowered the roof down as much as possible just to shed the water at the minimum pitch required by the shingles that go on the roof. So we couldn't really shrink this down any more than we really are without eliminating it completely. So in this case, the perceived scale of the house is really what the metric is. Can the site accommodate the added bulk? And my feeling is yes, because when you drive by, you're not even going to know that the bulk has changed whatsoever. And because we're maintaining a really attractive, low-slung house, it's really enlivening and enriching the neighborhood. Where if we didn't have this style house, which really has a very compromised second floor, even though it does contribute to FAR, these bedrooms are very awkward. They're very small. They're very awkward, hard to furnish and use. We're not ripping off the entire second floor of this house, building up another story and a half to create a 2.5-story home. We're maintaining the original carriage style, cottage style of the house, which I think is a plus. It's quite a contrast to a lot of the other houses that you see going up throughout the South Mountain section, which is really changing the feel and the texture of the neighborhood, which there's nothing wrong with it, but it does change it. And I like to have a mix of styles of house. And in this case, I think my client is being very sensitive, asking for a modest increase in FAR to accommodate the needs of a growing family. So I think overall, the benefits that we are proposing here outweigh the detriments. The changes increase the usefulness of the home, improve the housing stock, maintain the light, air, and open space, and it's conforming to all the requirements of the zone. So I don't think what we're proposing here is a detriment to the master plan. So I want to thank you for your time and open it up to any questions.
Can you speak to your, who would be affected view-wise? Like rear neighbors, next door neighbors, what they're looking at from the area that's going to be seen, since, as you said, no one is going to notice it from street view.
Right, yeah, and then from the sides and the rear, there's a lot of mature foliage. I think you can see from the aerial photos that were presented by our planner at the last meeting. There's a lot of mature trees between the two properties. Some of the other neighboring houses to the left and right already have large additions that go out to the rear. So I feel that what we are doing here is very consistent with the massing of the houses on the neighboring lots. So we are preserving the light, air, and open space. And what we're doing here, I don't think is going to negatively impact the neighbors because we are conforming through all the setbacks.
I think it would be helpful to the board, based on, I just went through my notes, as to some of the concerns in the last hearing. Can you just show the board the difference in terms of the rear, because that was what the concern was, I think, at the time.
Of course.
Between what was being proposed then and what is currently being proposed.
Yes. I have the drawings that we presented last time. So if we move to sheet, I believe it's page 5, which is the previously proposed rear elevation.
Yeah, just do a comparison.
Right. So I think the strongest comparison is to the rear. At the bottom here, I'm pointing to the previous submission. You can see
The bottom is the prior submission.
correct. The bottom is the prior submission. I'm looking at the rear elevation, and the rear elevation shows the area where we are building where the roof deck was presently. You can see the addition comes up all the way to the left side property line, going with a vertical intensification of that existing nonconformity. Where you can see at the top, which is the proposed drawing dated 10/31, we're pulling that in over 3 feet now to bring that wall of the house much further away from the property lines. And we've also decreased the perceived mass of it, and actually the physical mass of it, by taking that roof line and rotating it down and making it much lower. So that way, any light and shadow impacts will be greater, more greatly reduced. So it's quite a contrast if you look between the before and after of what we had proposed last time and now. We've really pared it down to the absolute minimum.
And you removed one of the windows, I see.
And we've removed one of the windows as well. So again, creating more privacy for the neighbors.
The entire 180 square feet is in that area.
Yes.
And how much was it in the prior time? Because I presume by taking 3 feet in, you have reduced it, right? The addition must have been more. than
Yeah,
the
it was-
prior version.
It was over, I think, 227, I believe.
That's come down to 180.
Right.
For that addition.
Correct.
So the FAR variance, the prior time must have been more than 6%, I presume it must have been.
I think it was about 6.6%.
There's 3 bedrooms total in this house, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, so when we did a neighborhood analysis, there's quite a few homes that have 4 bedrooms, 3 baths. Some actually have 6 bedrooms and 6 baths. But it's really hard to get data points to compare and contrast degrees of deviation. Our planner had testified last time that he had looked through tax records. And when you really try to dig into them, it's very hard to get a consistent square footage. Some include the garage, some do not include the garage. You know, we have an existing 2-car garage at the rear, and that eats up a lot of floor area ratio, which does not contribute to the livable portion of the home. So, you know, although we did not create that garage that's existing on the site, and prevents a challenge to, you know, getting the square footage that brings the house up in line with the usable square footage that other houses may have that could in fact be conforming.
So just to clarify, it is non-conforming as it exists currently. 39.6 is the FAR, which is not conforming.
Correct.
So you're exacerbating it really just 2.4% from existing?
Exactly, yeah, only 2.4%.
Thank you.
On the prior sheet, drawings, did we have an optional elevator as well?
Yes.
Okay. Is that a serious option?
It is a serious option because of the awkward floor plan and the way that the house is currently arranged. There was no good way to have somebody come up the staircase and access that space from the first floor. So our idea is that if it needed to be used for another function without disturbing the family in the primary bedroom, somebody could come up and use that room, whether it's a home office, a study room, or a guest bedroom. All those things are possible by having that optional elevator, and that's something that my client is seriously considering, to add functionality without increasing the floor area by creating hallways and other circulation, or taking away from the already small bedrooms that exist on the second floor.
Right, but so to that point, although this is labeled study, it could be other things.
Yeah, I testified last month that it's really a flex space. They're going to primarily use it as a study, but they do have family that comes in and visits, and they need a space that they can use as well. Their kids are growing and the bedrooms are small, so it could be a bedroom per kid. There's so many different uses for it. And when you have a small house like we do, you know, every square foot matters. There's no attic that you could use for storage or for another function. So, you know, that's why we're kind of developing it the way that we are.
Any other questions from board members?
So sorry, you mentioned this, but just to clarify, what is the tree line or what is the shrubbery that's in back of the property? So that would shield the view from.
What's that?
Actually, look, I think we testified last time, but I can't find it.
There are some trees in the back. Most of the trees are not on our property, but on other properties.
Do you know what kind of trees they are? Are they evergreen?
There's a mix of deciduous and evergreen trees.
And how far are you to the closest neighbor? How close are you to the closest neighbor from the back of your yard to someone else's property, the house?
I guess whatever the yard is.
I would say over 80 feet.
Over 80 feet from the addition, proposed addition to someone else's residence.
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Any comments from the audience? Don't see any, don't hear any, so I will close the public portion.
Again, this is an FAR variance requiring 5 affirmative votes. And you heard from last time about the legal criteria for depositing.
And we're only considering the FAR.
Only-
now,
only
so
the
there's.
FAR. You take only one vote.
Yep. So would anyone like to start?
I went first last time. All right, I'll go. No one else wants to go. So thank you for taking our comments into consideration and for making so many modifications. Actually came down 5 variances because the setback was 2. While it still looks a little bit of big massing to me, quite honest, I think that you wouldn't be able to do anything else without exorbitant expense. The neighborhood is modest. I drove around, so again, love that part of Millburn Township. And it's only, it's a relatively modest ask over compared to what it was before, with 2.4% over existing, which is also non-conforming. So taking all that in consideration, I think if you don't do this, then you can't really do anything because of the size of the lot and the other problems that are there, so I would be in favor.
Can I request that we open up for another question? We were to-
Sure.
Motion to open.
Procedural then.
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
I just don't have my full packet here from the last time. Was there any other prior variances granted for this piece on that application?
No, the owner had purchased the house this way, and I looked through the records. I did not see any variance relief prior.
Thank you.
I would also be in favor. I think they've done a good job. And so we support that.
Yeah, I think the changes, taken the suggestions and appreciate that. And I think this, although it is higher on the FAR as it stands and, it's further exacerbating it, I believe the ask is not a lot and I could be supportive of the application.
Yeah, I'm struggling with this one a little bit, but I certainly appreciate the work that was done to eliminate the other variances. And as I said, the last application, I'm not sure in terms of the amount of the overage on FAR, it's super material. I do agree with some of the earlier comments that I think, given the nature of the property and the home, that it would be difficult to do anything else, and it is a modest home. So I can't say I'm thrilled, but I could support it.
I will echo that. I'm not thrilled, but I support this. Thank you, Barry. I was trying to put it into words.
I guess I get to. I find this optional elevator strange. Especially because you can walk off the deck in the sunroom into this, and I just wonder what does that potentially become? But I guess I cannot love it.
Well, it's all internal, right?
Well, but it's not, if you close it up and you go up an optional elevator.
I mean, if you use the deck
You walk
entrance as
in-
your
you
individual
walk up-
entrance for that,
You walk
Two-
off the back
duplex.
onto a deck and into a sunroom,
and then you go upstairs.
and you go up an elevator, so potentially you walk in and out from the backyard into an elevator. It seems odd.
Yeah, I'll say I'm still very mixed about this application. I do appreciate you coming back and removing basically all the variances except the FAR. At the same time, if those could have been removed right from the start, it gets a little tricky with then do we, give applicants a reward for, getting rid of things that clearly didn't need to be there in the first place. I do think that the trickiest thing here is that you're already over, and you now need more, you need to go over more. And, really can the property, handle this kind of massing? And I'm still mixed about it. I understand getting rid of, closing off this deck. I'm not a huge fan of, second floor, 2-story decks where, as you said, you're looking out into your, neighbor's property, especially in properties where, they're relatively close together. But I don't know then if the trade-off is if we close it off, are we, is the massing gonna be too big? I mean, I guess the thing that works in your favor is that this is all in the backyard. So really no one is seeing this from the streetscape, from the front. And it is a heavily, wooded area with a lot of coverage from trees. The rear neighbors are still pretty far away. I'm still mixed about it. So with that being said, would someone,
So
yeah.
before we do that, would the applicant nevertheless like the board to take a formal vote, understanding that if the vote is not in the affirmative, you don't get the 5 affirmative votes. It would be a denial or a statutory denial, and then to proceed further, to avoid res judicata, that you would need to have, some, what I'll call a meaningful modification.
Can I have 1 minute to confer with my client?
Sure.
All right, thank you. All right, I think we'll take the risk and go for a vote.
Can we go for a vote? Okay, so the board understands that this is a vote exclusively for a floor area ratio variance, which requires 5 affirmative votes for an approval.
So that being said, would someone like to make a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Joseph Caulfield,
Yes.
Chandra Harjani,
Yes.
Amy Lawrence.
Yes.
That sounds like a mess.
I heard yes.
I wrote it for a category for
Gary Rosen,
Yes.
Regina Truitt.
Yes.
Priscilla Sarab,
Yes.
Jessica Glad.
No.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you very much.
The no frills, yes.
My first yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so can someone get, Okay, next up, we have calendar 4010-24. The location is 110 Hobart Avenue, Ritash and Kirby Chaudhry.
Do you swear from testimony about to give in this proceeding be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name for the record.
Ritesh Chaudhary. Hi, thank you very much for the time. My name is Ritesh Chaudhary. We've been residents for the last 4 years. We're looking to just build a sunroom on an existing structure, our existing deck in the back of the house. So not looking to extend anything, just build a sunroom, glass sunroom on the back to use the space all year round.
Do you have anyone with you? Who might wanna-
Brian here with us.
Okay.
Wait, do you swear from testimony about to give tonight be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do, yes.
Your name for the record, please.
My name is Brian Adams. My address in New Jersey is 1624. That's my home address. I do apologize. 1199 Route 22 in Mountainside. My home address is 1624 Northwest 31st Place, Cape Coral in Florida. I'm the technical director for the sunroom company that hope to build this sunroom for Mr. and Mrs. Chowdhury. What we're here for tonight is a side yard and a combined side yard setback. The first thing, which is their hardship, if you look at the property survey, it's an extremely narrow lot, very long. I think it's 317, and it's like only a 60-foot width, which makes it hard to do anything as far as the side yards. There are two variances that we're requesting. One is for a side yard singularly and a combined side yard. Now, the house itself is already non-conforming. And where we're going to be building on, it's in line with the existing house. I think it's 6.6 feet, which the existing house is 6.6 feet. But on the other side of that area where we're doing, it's 30 feet away from the right-hand side. But we have to go by what's there at the moment. So it's the two extremely narrow side yard setbacks. It's going to be, excuse me, a long flight today to get up here. Because my architect was going to come here today, but he had a problem with his wife. So last night I booked a ticket and come down because I didn't want to leave them in the lurch. So we intend to build it on a very, very well-built, substantial base. There's already a set of steps exiting it. So there's no new steps, nothing new other than we're going to insulate the flooring. But it wasn't insulated because it's a deck, an open deck. And we're going to do some covering on the tops and plywood. The left and right-hand walls are going to have privacy walls, 2 feet high. On the front elevation, which faces the rear of the garden, it's going to be glass knee walls. It's going to be a gable roof with an apex, and which follows on with the existing structure, and it's going to have shingles on top of that to match in with the existing. I welcome any more questions if I haven't covered everything.
Just clarifying, so it looks like your existing usage is the same as your proposed usage.
Yes.
So your variances are exactly in line with what you've got currently.
Yeah, it's what it is.
You're not
Although
exasperated.
the sunroom is to one side 30 feet away, we have to go by what's existing. We add them two numbers up.
So you're not exacerbating any of the
No.
current conditions.
I'm sorry, can you just repeat what you said about what the walls are gonna look like for the sunroom?
Yeah, on the sunroom walls, I mean, we're not doing glass on the bottom. We're doing solid panels, white panels. They're thermally efficient panels in there. So you don't get that, it cuts it up a little bit without having it all glass.
So so I'm referring to drawing number 1 in your submission.
Yeah, correct, yes.
Bottom piece here.
One second, I'll show you all this with me, sorry. Yeah, and drawing number 1, that's giving you, yes, an all-round perspective of it, yes. Yeah, if you look at that and the left-hand wall, all those bottom panels there will be solid white, high-efficient panels. And then the front and the lower parts will be glass. Then there's a patio door, sliding door to the right that opens up onto the existing steps, landing, and then the steps going down.
And there'll be panels at the top near the roof.
On the apex?
Glass.
Yes, yeah, there'll be glass there, yes.
What are the survey shows that there's concrete steps immediately to, I guess that's the east.
On the survey, did you say?
Yeah, lot 24, the next door lot. That looks like there's some sort of encroachment there. What do those steps go to? Do you know?
They're being removed.
So the steps on the adjacent property are being removed?
Oh, no, I don't, to be honest, I don't know what they are. I'll show you.
This is on the, it's on.
Yeah, no, I have a picture of that.
No, I know, but what are the steps for? Like, where do they go?
That's an emergency.
No, I think it's just a slope that basically just is going down into their backyard.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if you got this.
Wait. Can all speak.
Sorry. It's enabled, yeah, back
Could I pass this around so you it's a
Sure, well,
pic-
why don't we mark that?
mark it up and, yeah.
It's A1, what is that? What even?
That's a picture of the existing rear elevation, which shows you from the side angled, and it shows you exactly where, excuse me, and I've put a pen mark on it to show you where the roof's going to go. So you can see it's well lower than the existing room above it. So if I could pass this round,
Yes.
everyone to view. So,
Shawshank.
Can I ask a question, Logan?
I see Eileen ask a question here, what is the overall height of the structure going to be?
yes, I did answer that and put it on there. I'm terribly sorry.
No worries.
It's a variable because the grade pitches away drastically. As you're viewing it from the back side of the property, the room itself is 10 feet to the apex. Then it's only a 4 foot, that's 14 feet, but it goes down to about 18 plus because the grade, that's why they built that big concrete wall on the right-hand side there as a retaining wall, because the grade's a lot higher on that side.
Okay, so the range will be,
Between 14 and 18.
okay, thank you. And is this a previous variance for this?
Yes, we found that out. Yeah, obviously, that was before that they bought the property.
2011.
Eileen was very good and to let us know that there was that. So, yeah, but that was a similar thing for side yard setback. And they built that addition behind it.
So was that variance, they built the deck that
Yes.
you now want to put the sunroom on?
Correct.
The dimensions of this sunroof, the dimensions of the sunroof that you're doing, sorry if you mentioned it already.
The dimensions of the sunroom, yeah.
So the one which exists and which you're doing the sunroof.
You might want to look at your drawing 07,
Yeah.
06.
Oh, 07, that's a side elevation.
06 has.
Yeah, I think
It's,
06 probably.
2.5.
There should be a plan view there. Right, there we go. Yeah, that's 168.
Yeah, 02 has the dimensions.
Yeah, true, isn't it? That's the plan view, yes. So overall, that's 219, that's 168 per projection. I do apologise it being in inches. I know you want it in feet. So can I just do
14 feet.
14 feet is the projection, but the width is a little bit more than that. So that's what the existing structure is, and that's what was approved.
Right.
Yeah.
You're able to pass that photo back, Eileen. Thank you. Can you discuss a little bit about the neighbors, since this is what they're seeing? from their
Yes,
property?
actually, you can see it in that picture there. This house is set further towards the rear. You see the other house next door is set farther towards the street view. So that's quite considerably back. And it's back even further from where they had the first addition, but we're going in front of that.
What about the neighbor on the other side?
We're 30 feet away from that neighbour on that side, although the existing property is nearer. where we're building is 30 feet away to the property line.
Well, I was there yesterday. There's the neighbor to the right, which is lot 26, has a garage actually that sits right about a foot away from our boundary in our
That's
backyard.
correct, yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
So that the neighbor's building is in our space essentially.
And I guess the survey that shows paver patio is not really a patio, it's part of your driveway, correct?
It is, yeah, it extends from a driveway and sort of, that's how we get to the garage in the back.
Yeah, because the asphalt driveway onto the right of that, and the paver patio is a continuation of that, and goes up to where the area is where the sunroom hopefully goes.
So the reason why I asked for the photo, is there a grill currently on the deck?
It is currently on the deck,
Yeah,
yes.
and so you have a grill and you have looks like some patio furniture.
Correct, yes.
Right? So what's happening with the grill if you get approval for this?
We haven't really used much. We're mostly vegetarian, so we've had a grill, but we've not really used it a whole lot. So it's going away.
And I mean, right now there's a car parked underneath the deck.
Yes.
Is there any other intended use after you build the sunroom, or you going to still use it as like multi-purpose?
Yeah, it's just used as a multi-purpose. No immediate plans to do anything there.
But it will be open, right?
Yes, correct.
You'll still have the pillars which are supporting the.
Correct,
sunroom.
yes.
Yeah.
Did I see as part of the prior approval that the air conditioning units were contemplated to be underneath the deck? Thought I recall seeing that. Let me ask it a different way. Where are the air conditioning units currently?
They're on the side of the deck, on the deck, so they're not under the deck. Currently, they're sort of adjacent to it, but yeah, between us and the neighboring property lines.
What's the plan to strengthen the pillars? Because this is now going to be, a lot more weight is going to be put up with all the glass and the whole structure. You still have the same pillars, or I mean, what sort of, how do you strengthen the weight that you're putting on?
Oh, that's all been calculated. That's overkill what they did there. I mean, they've got like a 9-inch solid concrete wall on the back, and the piers are definitely overkill. And it's normal in that situation to do 2x10s. It's been built with 2x12 lumber, way over spec.
So there is wall on one side and it's open on two
Correct,
sides?
yes. Because as I said, because of the other, the grade on that side is a lot higher than the left-hand side. So what they did, they built that retaining wall as a solid concrete. Yeah.
It's not visible here, so I'm just curious.
1 second. I don't know. 'Cause I just picked this file up this afternoon. No, I think this is the same picture you've got there. Let me just look here. I've got this one here. I can pass this one. We've got to label this one as well. This is on that where the grade's higher, and it's showing some steps that are going to be removed. So you can see there how it's only about like 3.5 feet, 4 at the most.
Why don't we mark that as A2?
A2, yeah.
Photo.
On the topic of the pillars and the existing structures being able to handle the new weight, Christopher Eileen, will there be a structural engineer who evaluates this?
Well, the building inspector, when the plans go through,
He'll make sure that it can handle the extra weight?
Correct.
Yeah, that's part and parcel of the architects
Okay.
signing off on it.
Checking.
I mean, I wouldn't do it. I'm a layman, I'm not a professional architect, but I've been doing architectural work for in America for over 30 years. So, but Larry, my architect, has the last word. He has to sign that. His license is on the line. So we're not going to cut corners on that. We've had my site surveyor go out there and inspect it and dug some holes. We're happy with it. It is. Should the inspector from the township want us to do that, which has happened before, we're willing to do that. Yeah, like a test hole.
Any other questions from the board?
Can I see that A2? Yeah, sure. Mr. Chowdhury, the picture that's going around is A2. Would that be the grill and the stairs that's on the left side?
Correct.
Of the property that's attached to the deck?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, and we'll be taking that off.
You're taking that off?
Yes, it'll be removed, yeah.
Because that brings it closer.
Correct.
You know, a 6'2" setback at that point, it would be less, but you're removing that.
Yes.
Yeah, good.
Okay. Any questions from the audience? Sure, why don't you come up?
I want to say something.
Oh, okay, if you
Okay, I can
do,
wait,
right
right?
now, it's just questions. Do you have any
No,
questions?
I have something I want to say.
Okay, anyone else with questions? Okay, you can come up for comments.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay, yes.
I got
Wait,
some
wait, wait.
photos to
Hold on.
share. You.
Okay, wait, hang on one
You
second.
need to
Hold
be
on.
sworn in.
Okay.
Hold on.
Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in tonight's hearing be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name and your address and spelling your name.
Okay. To make things
Wait,
easy.
wait.
What
This
is,
is my name.
What?
Easy for you.
Okay, why don't you say it
Yeah.
also? So
Jing Zhang.
can you spell it, please?
JINGCHANG.
And what is your address, ma'am?
106 Hobart Avenue.
Where's your property in relation to the
Just
applicant?
next door neighbor.
Are you lot 24 where those
Yes,
steps
yes,
are?
yes, yes.
Is the white fence your fence?
They
It's your
installed.
fence.
Installed. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I got some photos to show you, but I'm sorry, I only made the 5 of them, so please share.
Should we
Okay,
need to
well,
mark
well,
those? Hang on.
hold on a second, hold on
Uh-huh.
a second. What we need to do, why don't you, let me see what you have there.
Okay,
I'm just trying to make it easy for everyone.
okay,
Okay, these are all different?
same, just the inside, 4 of them each.
Okay,
Because I'm going to talk about that, so
that's
you
okay.
go-
So if they're all the same, let me have one of them.
Okay,
We have one of them.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mark one of them. We're gonna call this 01,
okay,
okay? And we're gonna have it with the date. So when you refer to this packet, you're gonna refer to it as 01, consisting of, looks like 4 pages.
yes,
Okay?
Mhm.
So why don't we give this one to Eileen? So she has that. And so you can go ahead and start handing
No,
out.
we'll keep, we're gonna keep one right by us and then.
I'll give to,
And then we can share.
Yeah.
okay,
12 seconds.
okay. Good evening. My name is Jing Zhang, and my husband Stephen Wang and I own the house at 106 Hobart Avenue, Short Hills. We have lived in our sweet home for more than 24 years, and we've been good neighbors in our neighborhood on the Hobart Avenue. Our next door neighbor resides at 110 Hobart Avenue. The family moved in this house about 4 years ago. On behalf of my husband and myself, I'm thankful for the opportunity to present our formal objection to the proposed building of a sunroom at the house of our next door neighbor. Unfortunately, my husband is traveling so he is unable to attend this hearing. Our objection to our next door neighbor's proposal is based on the following reasons. The first one, number one, the concern for our privacy. Photo 1 shows the size and the location of the two lots, 106 and 110. Photo 2 shows.
Wait. Before we get to photo 2,
Yeah.
with regard to photo 1, it looks like that this is taken from a portion of a tax map. Is that accurate?
This, I guess, when I went.
Where are these dimensions and lot lines from?
This, when I purchased the house, the realtor gave to me. But I can show you my property survey. I brought in.
That's okay. I just wanted to know where the information came from that's on the first sheet of O1. So you're telling me you got that
Yeah.
from the realtor?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I purchased house 24 years ago, they gave to me.
Okay. And it shows different dimensions, and it looks like your lot, which is lot 24, has a lot width of 60 feet, similar to lot 25, correct?
I guess so.
Okay.
Okay.
And 52 feet and 40. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Continue.
The number one, the concern for our privacy. Photo 101 shows the size of this. I already read. Photo 2 shows the back of our house relative to our neighbor's house. As they show, photo 2, their house extends past our house by 12 feet. Their sun deck extends another 16 feet, making the end of their house 28 feet past our house. The sunroom will cover the sun deck that is at the back of their house. Photo 3 provides a view of the narrow distance between the two houses and the reason for our objection. We believe the sunroom will reside in close proximity to our house and face into our back rooms and the backyard. Causing a substantial loss in privacy. This will significantly decrease the market value of our house. Number 2, the concern for the west side view and the sunshine. We believe the building the structure will block our west side view and afternoon sunshine to our back rooms and the backyard, especially in winter. When we purchased our home 24 years ago, we knew the lot was narrow, but we liked the wide open backyard that connected the houses at 106, 110, and 114 Hobart. That was like a wide open, gorgeous park with full sun all day long. My husband and I are both retired seniors. We spend most of our time in our home or outside in the backyard. We really enjoyed the beautiful view and the sunshine in our backyard. Unfortunately, as shown in photo 4, our neighbors changed this view and the feeling when last spring they installed a 6-foot tall white plastic fence. This change has been very depressing for us. Now we are faced with the proposed sunroom, which will further change the view for our backyard and block the afternoon sunshine to our back rooms and the backyard. This will damage our property value. In summary, both the loss in privacy and the blocking of the west side view and the afternoon sunshine will negatively impact the following: the quality of our retirement life, including our mental health. And the number two, the market value of our house. I thank you again for allowing us to present our concerns, and I hope you understand our concerns and make the thoughtful decision to disapprove this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chang.
I have the property survey, my home. You can see how close this is.
Do you want to introduce additional evidence beyond 101? Do you want to present an 02?
Oh,
When you say you have additional information,
that's my property survey. I brought that.
okay, do you want to enter a copy of your property survey into evidence in this proceeding?
If you want, I can tomorrow, because it's a big paper. I cannot make it at home.
Well, no, this is a public hearing and you need to.
Oh, actually,
present-
I have something to show you. I got something. Actually, I do. I do have something. I made a small copy. So which way I show you?
Why don't you show it to me first?
Okay,
Thank you.
this I do,
Okay, hold on a second.
Okay.
Let's take a look at it.
this I drew.
Hold on.
Mhm.
Hold on. So is what you just showed me a copy of your, a portion of your survey?
And the sunroom will, their sunroom will be there. I drew it over there. I didn't wrote anything.
Where did you?
Look here. Will be here. How close? This steps is in my property. This is very close.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Why don't we mark, since you've already talked about it, we're gonna mark as 02. This is a portion of your survey,
Yeah, property survey, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, why don't you show this to the board to the extent you want to,
Okay,
and describe what it is.
okay. How do I do that? I do it here?
You can start over there.
Yeah, this is our survey. And this is suppose this fence is on the board. Look how close this sunroom will, and stick out and close to my house. The reason I just said, in the paper, I said, I think you guys might need the paper, you want that? I just said, the speech, you want that?
Is that your narrative? what you
Yeah,
stated?
narrative.
Okay, if you'd like to, we'll mark that as 03.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
What is 03?
03 is the witness's statement, written statement. And where's 02? I just want to make sure we're not losing track of that.
Oh, we didn't get it.
Oh, two.
Okay.
And that's now the board's. Okay. Ms. Chang, is there anything else you want to say to the board?
No, I'm done.
Okay.
I have a question.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
you can
listening.
ask questions.
Mr. Chang, I just have one question. As Mr. Simon pointed out, there was a variance granted for the deck back in 2011. You were living there at the time. Did you object at that time?
Actually,
Mr. and Mrs. Yang, James Wang?
yeah. That time, my husband and I very busy at work. So there was a hearing. We didn't come because we were busy with the work. And also the neighbor said they had 3 kids. They really need to expand. So we kind of, we didn't come. And now we regret that. Really, really regret. We should have come,
Okay.
that meeting.
So do the current neighbors, your current neighbors, the applicants here, do they use that, do you see them using that deck currently?
I didn't
Do
hear
they
that.
use the deck currently?
They sometimes not, but not. I'm just afraid when they build up the sunroom, they will stay there and they will see us.
I understand when they build the sunroom, there'll be a sunroom. I'm
Yeah.
asking now
Yeah,
and in the past,
Yeah.
have they used that deck before?
They
you ever seen them use
they
the
once in a while, they will have a party. Right? They will have a party.
No, that's, you have to
This
speak
is
to
for
the
you.
board.
This is, the question's for you.
Yeah,
What I'm
but
trying to get to is. you-
not
you-
very often,
you-
not very often.
Okay, I mean, you've said, and I understand your argument, that, the creation of the sunroom will, diminish your privacy.
Yes,
But they currently have a deck.
Yeah.
That they sometimes use. Do you feel that's diminished your privacy?
yeah, still, when they come, I don't come to my outside room. I have to stay inside.
Okay.
A question for Eileen, is their fence compliant?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the witness? Okay, and any member of the public, including the applicant, want to ask any questions of Ms. Chen? Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, you take that.
I just have a small thing. I mean, I've turned the property survey around so you can see the north arrow on it. And as we all know, rises in the east, sets in the west. So the sun is going to hit those properties all day long. So there's going to be no diminishing of the sun. And not only that, the sunroom is dwarfed by the second story of the existing house. So it's going to be inset there. So it's not going to be overpowering at all. And it was a good point you brought up about, if you're on the deck standing there or if you're in the sunroom standing there, it's going to be no difference on that. And it was passed for the setback at that time. So it's a small point, but I don't think it will diminish the sun.
Can
And
you
the
explain
privacy.
The sun point, how can the sun be there all day? I mean.
No, because where it rises, it's going to fall on the house. Because if you look at the property, so that's the north. It's going to rise in this side. It's going to travel in that direction. So it's always going to be showing the sun on the rear of the property anyway. And this second level, sorry?
As the sun sets, though.
As the sunset,
sunrise
yeah,
would
you're gonna,
block
yeah,
the
at the end
sun.
of the day, yes, it's gonna be possibly. But the building that's there now is a lot higher than what we'll be building. It's like about another 15 feet higher than that, the top of our roof. So it's already gonna be dwarfed, and it's gonna be no difference, I don't think, on that.
Is there any difference in height between the floor of the existing patio or the existing deck, excuse me, and the floor of the proposed sunroom? In terms of height?
Only what, from the grade?
Yes.
Yes, because it is a difference. If you look at the where the neighbour's side is, the grade is only about 4 feet. Then it slopes down to about 6 or 7 feet.
But is there any difference? Because the grade's not changing,
No,
correct? So-
no difference in the grade
So
at
will
all.
there be any difference in called elevation between the floor of the existing deck
Yeah,
and the floor of the proposed sunroom?
no difference at all. We're building directly on top of it. So we're not elevating it at all, no.
We made insulation. Under
Yes,
the floor,
yes.
under the floor, there's gonna be insulation. You're
Floor-
not building right on top of the deck, there's gonna be.
No, we're going to be removing the decking there at the moment. Once it's enclosed, we put in R30, I believe, in there. And we'll be putting new plywood down and enclosing it on the bottom. And the roof panels are all insulated panels. Everything's up to code for the sunroom.
So the deck is coming down and then you're starting
No, the
sunroom
deck
where the
covering,
deck-
just like the deck boards. All the structure is remaining there. It's a very, very well-built structure. As I said before, they're 2x12s. When I build these much bigger ones, I only use 2x10s, and it's allowable.
So you're leaving the deck in place and you're building on top of it?
Correct,
So it
yes.
has to be a difference in the floor. The floor
No.
But 5 inches, 6 inches,
Inch and a
You're
quarter,
insulating.
that's what the deck board is. I'm taking it down, but then I'm going to be putting 3/4 ply back onto it. It's going to be half an inch difference.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it's a good point, but no, it's half an
Just
inch.
clarifying what
Yeah.
Mr. Simon had asked. Thank you.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about the grade 4 feet going down to 6 or 7 feet. Which is higher, the neighbor's home or the applicant's?
The neighbour's home. And if you saw when we look at that other, I believe we said it was A2, that photograph I put in. That's where those steps are that are going to be removed. That is on, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. This good lady here, on her side, because those steps are going to be removed and taken away. That grade there's around about 4 feet. Yeah. Hence why there's got that big solid concrete retaining wall there.
Mr. Adams, could I draw your attention to photo 2 of Mrs. Chang's handout?
Yeah, I didn't see this one. Can I?
You can take a look.
Can I?
It'll show you the elevation. She seems to be significantly lower.
Right.
You can take that one. Right where the fence line is, you're right, that's a
Yeah.
higher grade, but
Hers is a lot lower, yeah.
not lower.
Yeah, so hers is sunk down lower, yeah. But, I'm talking about our grade,
Okay.
the other side of this fence is 4 feet up to the deck
Yes.
as it is at the moment.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right, they've got a retaining wall here, much the same as that retaining wall is on the other side to hold back this
Correct,
grading
great.
here. And they built a lower down into it. Okay.
Thanks. Good. Thanks.
Can I ask you a question while you're here?
Yes, yes.
Let's go to the mic. So currently you have a deck, and what happens with the water when it hits the deck?
It filters through. I mean, it's still impervious because it's got concrete on the lower portion where they drive into. So, you know, it's at the moment it's impervious, but it's still going to filter through there, through the deck boards.
Currently, it's going
But
to.
the sunroof will have gutters on it.
Hold on.
Sorry.
So the water currently, because the surface, as you just described, is impervious, right?
Yes.
Or pervious? Impervious.
It's impervious because below the deck
Right.
it's
So
impervious.
the water hits and this sort of sheet flows off?
Yes.
Okay. And under the currently proposed sunroom, you have the roof, and water hits the roof, where's it going?
It goes in the gutters each side of the apex and on the downspouts on the splash blocks at the bottom.
And how does it flow out of the property with the?
Well, it just goes onto the grade, you know, so I mean, it doesn't need channeling away because it's not a substantial amount, you know, so.
So will it flow onto the neighbors into their property since they're lower?
Well, no, the house is lower, but their grade is virtually the same. If you have a look at that picture, they've got a retaining wall themselves. So that grade there is virtually the same.
Just want to add, I guess, yeah, going down in the backyard, our grade goes down all the way more than their grade. Actually, we have almost a hill, mini hill going down to the backyard. Yeah.
And we have a drain. Sorry.
Wait, have you been,
No, I'm really not
yeah, you have
sure.
to be sworn in if you want to give testimony.
Do you swear from testimony about to give the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth? Do you swear the testimony about to
Yes,
give
yes.
your name?
Purvi Chaudhary. So we have a gutter where the drain pipe goes all the way in the back. So the gutter is right when you enter into a parking, there is a gutter, and then there is a pipe that leads straight in the back. So all the drain from the roof and everything leads to that drain to go in.
It goes to the back of your property.
Back of my property,
Okay, so
yeah.
not into the next door
No.
neighbors, down onto the, thank you. So it's not a splash board, it will go into a gutter.
I'm sorry.
You said something about it being a splash board, but it actually
Yeah, I
is
mean,
not a
I
splash board,
was
it's going into
unaware
a
of that because I
gutter
didn't do the site survey in it. So then we'd tie into that.
system. Question, the roof of the proposed sunroom is going to be made of what?
They're called SIPS panels. They're highly efficient compressed panel. They're in 32 inches by whatever length you make them, and they're much higher R value than a regular roof. So they come up in panels, 32 inches wide. I mean,
Are they metal or plastic or?
no, it's plywood on each side, sandwiched. I'll call it foam. It's not foam, but it's a special formula that's under pressure and compressed. So that's what gives it its high efficiency.
Okay, so it's foam, so it's not asphalt, it's not gonna match the roofing and the rest of the
No,
house?
no, that's
Not
the
asphalt,
that's the
It's
panel
buildings, roof is made.
itself that we construct it with. Then we put isomolded shield on top of that. Then we put the shingles to match the house roof on top
So
of
there
that.
will be, the exterior will be shingle.
Will be shingle.
That will match the rest of the
Correct,
house.
yes.
Okay, and will that absorb noise like from rain or whatever?
Yeah, it will. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. But it's not clear, so in terms of sun shining through, it won't shine through that. The sun won't shine through the roof.
No.
Okay.
On the room
So I
itself,
guess
no.
I'm thinking that it might actually cut down sun to the neighbor a bit. Because sunshine is currently shining on the deck.
Yeah.
And now there's going to be an impervious, opaque surface.
Yeah, it's a little bit
over
of a
the
grey area. Yeah, because I understand what you're
deck.
saying.
Just
Yeah, yeah.
So I just want to say something to that. So currently our deck is further out from the neighbor's property. So if you see the picture, the neighbor's property stops right here. The deck comes all the way here. So sun falling has nothing to do with blocking neighbor's property because sun goes like that. And when it goes, even if there's a roof, the neighbor's property is still way behind than where I'm standing, where the current existing deck where the sunroom is going to be.
Do you think it'll create any shadows on their property?
Well, there's already existing, my son's bedroom is already basically covering their property 100%. So it's already covered. The deck is.
But do you think there'll be any new shadows created by this?
It's
Light, in terms of
Yeah.
light. Because I
Yeah.
think,
Yes.
it's a mass occupying
Yes.
space,
Yes.
so.
So I think that what the testimony that was just presented was intended to demonstrate is that any shadowing of the neighbor's property wouldn't be shadowing on the building, the house itself. There may be some shadows
Yes,
on the
on the
adjacent
property.
land.
On the property, yes.
Yeah,
On the back, yes.
right,
Yeah.
thank you, thanks for clarifying that.
Do we have anyone else in the audience who would like to make any comments? I'm going to close the public portion so that we can discuss.
I want to speak about this one as well. I think the setback requirement definitely have a reason why we want to have it, and given that it's a narrow lot, and it's already have a variance before. I don't think it's building up on top of it, creating more problem. It's something we should support. And if you believe it's not creating any sunlight property for the property, you should probably do a sunlight analysis on that, right? And privacy issue, it's a given. So I think it's not valid. But in terms of sunshine, in terms of the shadow, you probably, if you want to get it approved, you should do a thorough analysis.
Sorry, but I'm not familiar with that
So
analysis. Maybe offline
I
you
think
can tell
what
me
Mr.
about
Penn
it.
was referring to is that in certain cases where there are setback variances that are being requested, right? Where the building is closer than what's permitted by ordinance, that sometimes when there's an issue that is presented as to whether there will be additional shadow casting from the project property onto the neighbor's property, that boards will sometimes ask for something called a shadow study.
Okay.
Where the study is performed by a professional, showing that at different hours of the day, different times of the year, that there, as the applicant, there won't be any adverse shadowing consequences onto neighboring homes by virtue of the project, right?
Thank you.
Yep, exactly.
That's the first one. I haven't heard of that, but yeah, I understand. Yeah. I'm just, I said in basic layman's terms, I know the house is set back. I know that it won't, but I understand what you're saying, yeah.
Anyone else want to comment?
I'll comment. So I'm mixed on this one. I can see that it's an extremely narrow lot, as are all the lots that are nearby you. I drove by today. And, but I am moved by the neighbors' comments, quite frankly. And I feel like variances and this application are, I'm gonna be a little mean, an example of give people an inch and they want a mile. You got a variance for in 2011 for the deck, which is lovely and sounds like you use it occasionally, but now you want to build on top of something you already had a variance for. It will, in my mind, impact the neighbor. She's really close to you. She's stated how it's depressed her to have some of the things you've added already. The fence is in compliance, but it's a big plastic fence. She has no control over that. The deck, she should have come, but she didn't, was busy and didn't, but she should have come to oppose it then, but she is here now. So I have to say, if it were my property and I hear her, I agree with her, this is going to block her light to her property. There's no question that it will block her light by creating shadows. No matter how the sun is moving, the light on her property will be impacted by this, even by the dimensions that we don't actually have. So I would not be in favor of this application.
I think, looking at we can't go onto neighbors' property when we're out, looking at applicants. So seeing this photo too, from the neighbor's perspective, absolutely, gives me pause. This house, the applicant's house is already extending further back into the rear yard than the neighbor's house is. And imagining, an enclosed structure on top of a deck, I think it's very concerning. I don't know that I could support this application, but I'd be curious what everyone else thinks.
I think I agree with that. I think the grade change, I don't know, for lack of a better word, exacerbates the situation because the other house just sits so much higher than it that it kind of dwarfs her house in the backyard. And so adding the structure on kind of adds to that, what's already happening.
Yeah, Laura, I think I agree with those comments as well. I would say, to Shawshank's comments, I do think that, I'm not sure what the effect of the sunlight would be. It depends on the angle of the sun as it comes across. It's not going north-south, it's going east-west, right? So I would, at a minimum, I'd want to understand what the impact of the sun would be on the neighbor before I approve that. From a privacy perspective, I'm sympathetic to the comments, although I don't think, you guys didn't really, you can't talk. I don't think you got the original variance, right? So, it's not like they're getting another bite
The
of the
property
apple.
did.
Right, the property did, but they didn't. But nevertheless, there is a deck there that is at least sometimes used. So I'm not sure that there being a sunroom, it may be used a little more, but not sure it materially impacts the privacy point. I'm more concerned about the impact of sunlight and maybe even the massing in the backyard and what that's like for the neighbor. So I'm a little bit skeptical about this, but as I say, at a minimum, I want to know that they're not going to end up being blacked out like an eclipse. If this thing gets built.
Something to see.
Agree with Gary. I think sunlight may not have an issue. The massing will have an issue at the back end. And certainly some analysis would be helpful, but I don't think that would be, blocking or creating shadows on their property. That would be my initial view. But, to the extent there could be more evidence brought, that might just be helpful. But massing is clearly an issue at the back end. It seems like listening to the testimony.
If I could add a comment about sunlight, just thinking back to physics, sunlight is not a linear phenomenon. It's a conical, it's a cone. Sunlight is a cone. So if you're taking a chunk out of that cone, it's going to impact something. So that is how sunlight works. It's not a boom, it's a straight line, it's a cone.
No, you're
So-
right, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously
curvature,
you're
yes.
impacting the cone by putting a mass property with affecting sunlight.
I also just want to add to Shawshan's point that we do have side yard, setback ordinances for a reason. And
Yes.
perhaps this is really a very good example of it. I know that the applicants did not come before our board previously to seek the variance for this deck, but we do now see that variances, run with the land. So now, this variance was given for this deck. Sometimes we know as a board, we'll put in a condition that it can never be enclosed. If we do that, I looked, into the variance, into the resolution, there was nothing stating that, but I think commonly that is something that we'll put in because we are concerned about the fact that a variance runs with the land and what is the next owner gonna do, or what is the third owner gonna do, so on and so forth. And I think right now we're seeing this really play out with, a deck that's already non-conforming and now trying to put an enclosure on it, that could really impact the next door neighbors.
Can I say something?
It's up to you if you want to back up.
It's up to the board.
Sure. Everyone might
Sure.
open it back up too.
I think one of the arguments that were made in the prior hearing when we were listening is actually putting a room in there to make it quieter and actually give privacy to the neighbor next door. So the opposite argument is being made by all of you here and my neighbor. By enclosing the room, we're actually going to make it quieter for them. I do understand everything else that you've raised, but I just want to point that out that one of the reasons for giving the approval to the prior applicant was giving privacy to the neighbor, and the opposite is being argued here.
Right, except that here you have a situation where you're having a sunroom that's gonna have a light inside of it, right? So you're using the space more because it's gonna be used not only year round, but also can be used in the evening time, right, as additional space. And there's gonna be light inside, and there's not gonna be any curtains, so there's a potential for impact as well.
Agreed. Thank you.
Well, it's also the differences in properties in terms of the slope of the property and where your neighbor's house is and rear yard is in relation to your proposed sun deck. So it's not exactly the same thing.
It's also the proximity we talked about there. It was like several feet away. Here it's pretty close.
Yeah.
I think all that matters.
Understood.
So you've heard the comments from the board. If you want to proceed, I don't,
No,
are you
keep
able
going.
to? Okay.
You're welcome. Come on.
If you would like to proceed with a vote, and the vote is not in your favor, then you're not going to be able to come back before the board without substantial changes, because of the doctrine of
Ever.
res judicata, so.
Is it an ever?
It's an
Well,
ever.
Rob can describe it, more
I'll
in terms of the
Yeah,
legal
yeah,
terms.
so basically, what the chairwoman stated is that if you ask for a vote right now, and it's a negative vote, then you can't necessarily come back because of these legal doctrines are called res judicata and collateral estoppel and say, well, I'll tell you what, now I'm gonna take a foot off this or 2 inches off of this, and I want another application and vote. You may be legally foreclosed from even presenting that because it'll be too similar to what was already denied. So you've heard some comments as to some concerns that the board members have. So you can ask for a vote. You can ask that the application be what's called continued to another date and take into consideration the comments and decide whether you want to present additional evidence like a shadow study, modify your project somehow. You can withdraw. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do, but those are the options you have right now. You can mostly whether you want to have a vote right now and take your chances, or whether you want to carry the hearing to another date and reconsider your options.
Clarifying question for you, even if it's another board in 2 or 3 years, if it's a no, it still holds as a no.
Correct.
Okay, forward.
Well, I honestly think the main thing is, to me, I know the board have presented some
You
other
can
things.
talk privately amongst yourselves for a couple of
No,
minutes.
I think, you know,
Okay.
it is what it is. But the shadow study, I think, is the biggest thing. I honestly, in my heart, don't think it's going to cast many shadows. But if we get an expert that does a shadow study, then if we look at it, we might say, oh.
We'll lot for our continuation then, for extended.
Okay, Eileen, do we have another date?
I heard that in a while. Wait, that's not it.
If I could just clarify, I don't know if I can speak here, but we're like harping on this shadow study. I don't think that will be compelling. While you're welcome to do it, and I don't think that this is gonna be compelling for the board. I think the issue really is the proximity and the mass. I'm just putting that out there so you don't spend more money doing
Appreciate
things that, are not gonna be compelling.
Understood, appreciate it, thank you.
I would agree with Priscilla.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Because
I agree
you
as
have
well.
southern exposure, the sun's not gonna make much of a difference. I agree with the proximity and the massing of it.
Can I say something?
You've heard the comments good comments from the board.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But surely that should have come up because the other structure that they built was much bigger than what we're a lot lower down. So that should have come up at the previous.
Well, just let's
may
speak,
have.
let's
No,
just be
I'm
clear. So I understand, every application rises and falls on its own presentation, evidence, and facts in the record.
We would like to get some more evidence and facts and so we would like to come back.
That's up to
Yes.
you, but I think the board has done a good job of giving you some
Yeah, I
honest
think the
feedback
honest, yes.
as to where they currently stand with the
Yeah.
application.
No, I think we hear the concerns of our neighbor and we would like to come back and show some contrary evidence.
How does January 13th, 2025 sound?
I'm not doing anything now. That's great.
We're gonna be here.
I know that.
If they're gonna do a study, I'm not gonna wait, that's your decision.
Yeah, I
but
don't know how long that's
You're
gonna
not
take.
gonna, it's gonna be hard over the holidays to get somebody in.
My question, yeah, I was going to say that because this time of year.
Just so
We
you
would
know.
have to carry it till January 13th for scheduling purposes, because we haven't adopted our
That's true.
2025.
Yeah,
So we
so
would
we
have
should
to
do that.
Okay,
carry
so,
it for
so,
scheduling purposes only.
so we may not necessarily get to you on January 13th, 2025, but for notice purposes, we'll be at least carrying the matter for now until January 13th, 2025, with no further notice to be provided to your neighbors. So, Ms. Chang, so the next hearing on this application, at least for now, will be January 13th, 2025.
Oh, sorry. January 13th.
2025 at 7 o'clock here in this room.
Okay. Can I have?
Hold on,
Okay, can I say something?
not
else?
yet.
Is that okay?
Hold.
Okay.
So do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. And you have the right to present any additional evidence that you may feel is relevant and persuasive at that time.
Agree, okay.
You had a question.
Yeah. I also want to mention, actually, the sunroom will block our west side view.
So what's gonna happen
Yeah.
is that Mr. and Mrs. Chowdhury are gonna come back potentially and present some additional information.
Uh-huh.
At that time, you will have the right to question that information, and if you want, present your own information. Okay?
But today I mentioned the view.
No, the hearing is closed for now,
Okay,
okay? But the next hearing, if you have more to say
uh-huh.
that is relevant to the application and the variance relief, you'll have your opportunity.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, it is.
So it is 9:52. We're starting an application, or can start an application. What, I don't remember what Craig's kind of cutoff time is.
Yeah, I think no new cases after 10 and no new testimony after 10:30, if I recall.
Okay,
I don't.
so we're we're kind of at the cusp. So Rob has, so safely suggested that I poll all of you to get your thoughts on if you're okay starting, knowing that we're gonna have a hard stop at 10:30, or if we are going to need to carry this.
Waited, that would be my view, sorry.
Yeah, those are cells, so we have, I don't know, who was,
Oh, I have
person.
time to talk.
Yeah.
she's gonna be with us, so.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just kept all my kids with a babysitter for this.
I'm okay hearing it,
I
but
think we go ahead.
Okay. All right,
Oh, thank you.
proceed.
Thank you.
Raise your hands. Do you swear affirm testimony about to give in tonight's proceeding be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And name for the record.
Stephanie Romanero.
And Thomas Bayo, architect, the applicant.
Okay.
You start.
Want me to start? Okay. Good evening. Thank you for reviewing our application. My name is Stephanie Romanero. Unfortunately, my husband was here. He ran home because the babysitter had to leave, so he couldn't stay. We moved to Short Hills at the end of June with our 4 kids to 85 Stewart from New York City, and we're thrilled to be settling in. We love our new home. Just as background, the HPC has already approved the structure that's going over the tennis court at the rear of our house. Just some background on it, my husband and I were both very competitive athletes. We both competed in college. So what we're trying to do is just continue to foster and encourage sports with our own kids who are also already athletes. So by covering the tennis court, we're hoping to just extend its use for more of the year during inclement weather, things like that. So this evening, we're seeking approval for a variance to address just 2 of the columns on the HPC approved structure that slightly encroach on current setbacks, and Tom can tell you more about those.
Okay, good evening. We did get HPC approval.
We need to get your qualifications, please.
Certainly. Okay. My name is Thomas Bayo. I've been a licensed architect in New Jersey for 33 years. Had my practice here for a very long time. I continue to be in good standing with the State Board of Architects. I've been testifying before this board over 100 times, and as well as many adjacent towns.
Thank you.
Acceptable?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So as you heard, we were approved at the August HPC meeting. Part of the condition of approval at HPC, and I'm pointing to my drawings right now, so these are not new exhibits. Part of the approval before HPC was sort of how do they put their arms around a giant roof over a tennis court with no
Wait,
walls?
Tom, so are these all renderings that have been presented to the board as part of the application?
Yes, they have.
I know I've seen a version of this, but so this is exactly just a larger version of what you submitted?
It's the exact same size.
Okay.
So
I
I'm
have a
pointing,
smaller version.
I'll be clear, I'm pointing to sheet A4 of the packet that was handed out. Sheet A4 illustrates an open structure over the tennis court with ivy and walls around it. And part of the reason we're here, we were never intending to come for a variance, is getting this approved through HPC required in sort of the deal making of it, that we consider garden walls around our tennis structure. The tennis structure is no closer than 12 feet to the property line. The problem is building these larger walls gets us closer to the property line than the court. So in order to have met the conditions of HPC, we were almost immediately cast before your board for approval at 2 locations. The bottom right, where we have a 30-inch variance created. We have a 9-foot, 6-inch offset to the start of that wall. So that's the 30 inches. And in the back left corner, for a distance of, I colored it in, but it's very, very tiny. Probably about 4 feet of that corner, the structure is 9 feet from the property line, whereas 12 feet is required. So we have these 2 instances in which the front right corner and the back left corner encroach this much on the front right and 3 feet in a triangular shape, so it's a very small triangle, in the back left. That's why we're here tonight. I brought additional exhibits if they are needed. I'm not going to introduce them at this point, but I'm prepared to talk about distances to other property homes. We hired an engineer. We did planometrics showing where the light spillage occurs. But I'd like to close my testimony for now, in the light of time.
What light exposure are you referring to?
I did studies for HPC to show where
What's the lit?
Did you present those?
the underside of the tennis court inside.
Are those part of
Then all.
this packet?
No, I can introduce them. So when you put the roof on, we're going to have lights underneath the roof casting straight down. And this shows that there's very little spillage that occurs outside of the court.
We don't allow, the ordinance doesn't permit accessory structures to be lit. So I don't know.
Why? How is it different than a garage?
Wait, hold on a second.
Well,
So first of all, this is, I think what you need to do, and I understand it's late, but I think you need to reel it back a little bit.
Okay.
And present comprehensively what this application is. And I understand that you're saying it's only 3 feet in this corner and 3 feet in that corner, but you haven't even got into what the application is, what the intended use is, what the structure is gonna look like. Just like for, any addition, any architectural rendering that you would do for a single-family home, you need to do that because you need to make a record, good or bad, for purposes of this hearing. So I would start and reference, if you want to reference your plans or whatever you want to reference in terms of exhibits, but I think you need to explain what this application is for, not just that it's 3 feet here and 3 feet there.
Okay. The application is for a roof construction over an existing tennis court. The existing tennis court complies with setbacks in that it's 12 feet or more from the surrounding property lines. We were approved before HPC in August with this structure, but part of that approval process required that we address an aesthetic goal, which is to introduce garden walls of a certain thickness around our tennis pavilion as part of the structure, as part of the column, open wall structure, that it have room, that they have some substance to them. That rendered our roof approximately 30 inches larger than the tennis court. Otherwise, we're putting the retaining wall, the surrounding walls inside the court. So we have to now build them outside of the court area, which produces one variance for side yard setback. The variance really emerges at the bottom right corner and at the top left corner, where each of those locations, top left being 36 inches, bottom right being 30 inches, are too close to the property line. This 30-inch variance extends most of the way back until we get to the back corner, which is 12 and a half feet, so it's substantially more. So somewhere between these 2 points, maybe 7/8 of the way back, 3/4 of the way back, we no longer have a technical variance for side yard setback. But suffice to say, 3/4 of the right side is within 12 feet of the property line, with the worst case being 9 feet 6. And just the back left corner, for a distance of approximately 4 feet on each leg of the tennis court, sits within 12 feet of the property line.
So with regard to the actual use, it's a tennis court. how far is the sidelines of the tennis court to these new structures that are going?
The new structure, the wall around the tennis court is right up against the tennis court.
Okay, how far from the sideline of the tennis court to the wall?
0 inches. It's right on, the wall is right on the court. Not in the court, it's right on the court, but the wall has thickness. And that thickness gets within 30 inches at the bottom right corner, and in the top left-hand corner, it gets within 3 feet.
Do you have, I don't want to call it a floor plan?
Yes.
That shows the distance or the dimension of the court. I'm assuming it's lined for doubles and not just singles?
The answer is I don't have a tennis court plan, I have a roof plan.
E1, I think, is gonna be your plan.
E1? Oh, yeah.
It has a tennis court that's superimposed on it.
Right.
Right, so
Yeah, there's my tennis court.
on E1, what's the distance from the sideline of the doubles court, let's call it, to the wall?
Oh, I don't know that distance. I don't have the tennis court sizes. This is 60 feet by 120. That's the over hit area of a tennis court. So this is 60. I would say the tennis court's approximately 40. Maybe this is 15 and 12 and 12, something like that.
Okay, so the point is that there's sufficient distance if you're playing tennis that you're not gonna be running into the wall.
Oh, yeah, right. But one of the things that we came across HPC is that they wanted this wall. Unless you build a wall within the legal, this is a regulation tennis court, so the overhead area is quite substantially bigger than the court. So the wall has to go outside of that, and that produces the variance.
And let's talk, so the roof structure, what's it made of?
The roof structure is made of polycarbonate panels. Basically, I might have a picture. I didn't bring the roof spec sheet, but I might have a better picture. Nope. Yeah, you really can't see it. You can, I'm going to point to my sheet 1A3. This drawing depicts that the vast majority of the roof, the whole center part, is polycarbonate transparent panels.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I just do it. And then the outer parts of that are rigid, solid, insulated foam, stainless steel panels. So it's a combination of, and I'm sorry, you really can't see it, but if you look at your drawing 1A3, you'll see that's the best perspective. And it's a steel structure because there's not too many other ways to span this distance. The height of the structure is 18 feet, so it's conforming for accessory use structures. And the purpose of the variance is because we're building these walls net of the court, net of the regulation play area.
How are you able to play tennis?
Yeah.
I'm a tennis player. How are you able to play tennis with a roof structure that is only 18 feet high?
It's for kids primarily, and it's training. We're not holding like tournaments. It's gonna be used for tennis, but other sports as well. It's not just.
Like they have turf on it right now for soccer. But the predominant play
It's a
is
multi-sport.
just about 6 feet above the net. The predominant play. The volleying can't occur in this thing, so it's not gonna have that ability.
Sorry, one other question. If I look at E1, it looks like, I guess these are lights and ceiling fans?
Yes, we'll address that next because it might have to be another variance.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay,
One second.
all right.
Let's just stick to the height. So this is why I asked you to reel it back. So it's going to be primarily used for tennis training, okay?
Soccer training, tennis training. It's not
Soccer
just-
training as well. So what's the surface of what I'll call the sport court?
It's-
Clay.
Yeah, well, it's clay, I believe.
It's a clay court and it has the ability to have rolled in grassy turf.
What's on it now, Tom?
Grassy turf.
Yeah, we have turf down right
Like
now.
AstroTurf, right?
Yeah, but it's actually a multi-sport turf, so it can be used for tennis, basketball, soccer. It's,
But it has the pulverized rubber that you lay down as well. So, I mean, is it conceivable that you can roll that up and create create a clay tennis court, which is.
I'm not sure I would want to, truthfully.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
fine.
I think the idea in picking this material is that it's multi-sport. We can use it for tennis. We've played tennis on it.
Oh,
We've
sure.
actually played basketball, my kids, and soccer, so.
Just give the board an idea, it's
Yeah,
really a
so
sports court we're talking about, not a
It's
tennis
sports
court.
court, I mean, I guess it's being morphed into a sports, what do they call it, HPC pavilion? Sports
Yeah.
Pavilion?
Question about the roof, is it enclosed? Because it looked like a trellis sort of apparatus, but it's actually fully covered.
Yeah, so it's fully covered, so raindrops cannot enter this structure.
Oh, okay, because that's what I was confused about, because it looks like,
No,
to talk about the sunlight and shadows, but I'm just questioning it, so it is closed, it's covered.
the roof is completely enclosed, the walls are not. So you're gonna have the ability where rain or wind could actually come into play.
So will this make noise when raindrops hit it?
I would say it should make the same sound of pitter patter that it would make on the court itself. It's not gonna be amplified.
Because I think our application says metal somewhere, or maybe
It
somewhere.
it is.
It's
The sides
so
are
it's
metal, the center is a polycarbonate, and Mrs. Truitt, I would really encourage you to look at that 183, because that's a good perspective picture. It does show its construction.
So do you think the pitter patter is gonna be the same on the metal roof as it would be on the turf?
Isn't it the material insulated?
Yeah, there is a-
Insulation on it?
The side panels that are made of metal are insulated with, like, styrofoam. So there is some sound that it makes, but it's not gonna be more than what I just said, a pitter patter. The plastic one is probably where you're gonna get more resonating sound of raindrops or hail.
So are these clear panels?
Yes, they're polycarbonate.
So they're clear, and then on the sides,
They're closed.
and what is that made of?
That's an aluminum panel.
Oh, it's aluminum.
Yeah. I said stainless steel because I'm not sure how the interaction of regular steel and aluminum takes place. There might have to be some intermediate agent because of, electrolysis. So they might be stainless steel, they might be aluminum.
Okay, so they are metal, okay.
Just to step back, what was the rationale for HPC creating this, request that you have to go all around creating a wall, number one? And secondly, was this variance, you were probably aware variance is created if you have to create that. Did you try telling them that can you just knock off that quarter and this 7/8 side of the right side that you don't have to create that? I'm just not understanding why HPC.
I could speak a little bit to that
Yeah,
because I sat on the multiple times that this application came before HPC. The original structure looked kind of industrial. It was like metal, or I don't remember exactly because it went through a bunch of iterations, but it did not fit the character of the rest of this property or being, historic in any way. So after multiple times of coming, which you could look in the, HPC resolution, coming before, historic, it was also much higher roof. HPC had concerns about the height of the roof. That's kind of how this final, design plan came into play. I don't recall us being aware of any variance, from doing the, from doing the wall. I don't know if that was maybe once you actually did the final.
Once we did it.
Calculations. I don't think that was, that's almost like an after thing.
It's this thick, it's 30 inches.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
What will the garden wall have growing on it?
Ivy from the house.
the
So-
garden wall, along with the columns, are gonna replicate the the picture 3A3 on that A3 sheet, which shows a stone low wall around the patio with columns made of stone, which are also clad with growing ivy.
So I don't know if the forester gets involved with this, but ivy is considered invasive. So with the garden club, we can't even put it in our arrangements. It's so invasive. It goes everywhere. So just before you go to that trouble, make sure you're okay with
Yeah.
the forester.
Well, it's on the
Once this
house
goes
today.
through. Yeah, but you're adding new.
Yes, and
Yeah.
ivy chases water, so a lot of times ivy on a wall suggests that there's an underlying, water issue
I have
behind
it
the wall.
between my neighbor and mine, and I'm always ripping it out. And,
Yeah.
There's no water there. Anyway,
We don't
just
wanna have
something
the
to be
stones
mindful of,
blown
that
up.
the forester may shut it down if it's ivy.
Okay, well, we'll definitely address
You'll
that.
look into that before you go to the trouble.
Okay, so now we know, because the plans all say tennis. all of them. So now we know that if this is a pavilion or sports court with soccer, tennis, basketball, clay with the turf that can be rolled out.
The turf is on there now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Basketball's also already there. It's already got hoops from previous owners, like those are, it's existing. It's existing basketball and tennis.
So what's the main surface? In other words, when you play basketball, you're not playing basketball on the clay.
We're playing it on the
On the
sports turf.
on sports turf.
It's multi-sport turf.
Okay.
It's the rubber.
And
I
then,
don't know the
but when you play tennis, are you playing tennis on the rubberized turf?
That's why we put that down, because we consulted with various companies and we picked one that we used across multiple sports for kids. I mean, it's supposed to be super versatile. I mean, that's,
I
that's exactly
understand,
what
but so
we've done.
just trying to get for the record, so are you ever gonna be using this for clay court tennis?
Will you ever unroll this?
I have no idea. I really
Right, so the
don't
intent
know.
is not necessarily to keep rolling it and unrolling it, but just to use this sport court surface for multiple sports.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, I have 4 kids who are 10, turning 11, 8, 5, and, a toddler. So for me, like, this is like longevity. Like, what can we do with ease and for the long haul? So.
Okay, so let's talk about, so we have the height, lighting. Let's talk about the lighting on the inside.
Sure.
Fans. So Eileen talked about that, so please explain.
Sure. Well, underneath here, obviously, there'll be restrictions we'll accept on ours, but there is lighting that faces down. The goal of the lighting is to improve the ability of a player to hit a tennis ball or kick a soccer ball and not worry about having too much darkness. In preparation for that, and we did testify to the Historic Preservation Commission about the lighting. But when I put columns and a roof on a building, I'm pretty sure it becomes a building. The definition of a building in our zoning ordinance is a column.
Our zoning ordinance specifically says, no above-ground lighting of recreational facilities on 1 and 2 family residential properties shall be permitted. Yes. For that reason.
Right.
They don't want to light recreational facilities to be used.
Well, the spirit of that has to be so that you don't have light spillage.
Well, no.
No,
It's
could
it's
also
not,
be that
we don't talk about the spirit of the ordinance. Words count. And if the ordinance says that you can't light an outdoor sports court, I'm pretty positive that the notice itself didn't contemplate that, nor ask for any type of variance relief.
No, it did not.
Okay. While we're on, so that's something that the board, I think, may want to consider in terms of relief that's required for this application. The other question, I guess the legal question that I have is that the board sees, and we've had applications for a number of sports courts, athletic courts with similar type of foundations or surfaces. But I don't recall any that were roofed. And so I guess my question is whether the applicant is contending that a roofed sports court is a permitted accessory structure in this residential zone, or whether variance relief is required for that. Has that been
We can ask Eileen.
discussed?
I don't think we were going for relief on the use.
Okay. So the question is whether a roofed sports court, the roof portion, is customary, incidental, and subordinate to a principal residential use in a residential zone in the township of Milton. So that's up to the board.
I didn't cite it for that. I mean, there's always a first of everything. And, I didn't cite it for not a permitted accessory.
Okay.
Since the tennis court was already there.
That's, okay, got it.
So then I suppose in preparation for this, you mentioned there might be a noticing deficiency. Is there a noticing deficiency?
Well, if the notice, first of all, the application didn't request relief for lighting of an accessory structure. That's number one. Number two, the notice, I believe, did not make any mention of the need for this relief. So members of the public would get the notice, and and think that the use is permitted or the lighting is permitted.
Yeah.
When it's not.
So we went through the lighting with HPC. We hired an engineer and did some lighting studies, which are very beautifully done. The application was submitted that way. I just didn't call it out because I really thought this rose to the level of being a building. Not,
It's still accessory.
it's an accessory,
It's
but
a
accessory
recreational
buildings are allowed to have lights.
Correct. This is a recreational facility. This is not a building per se. It's recreational in nature.
Okay.
Of course, these are
If you feel that that would be an appropriate,
We're just following the ordinance, nothing more.
well,
Can I ask a question?
I'm not sure it's clear on this one.
Just because I don't know genuinely, so like it's right next door to like the pool house, which we have right the same height.
No.
Well,
The pool house is 18 feet.
Right, they're the same height.
Same
We
height.
did that, right, and
It's the
and
same
to
height.
mimic the design of.
Yes, it's
So
relatively low for a
is
tennis
the
court.
pool house that's literally right next to it, is that an accessory structure? I'm genuinely asking
It is.
because I don't know.
It is an
It is- it
accessory
is an
structure,
accessory
and it is lit.
And is that considered recreation?
That's an enclosed, if
I
that's
just don't know, I'm
enclosed.
genuinely just trying to understand.
Recreational, yeah, it would still be considered recreational.
So if the-
in nature.
So if the open walls constitute that, then we have a noticing deficiency because the notice should provide that there's lighting.
Right, and you intend to, it's not just so that it's a safety issue, it's because you want to increase the use of the structure to nighttime use.
Yes.
Can I say something, just right now, even just as the tennis court as it stands, I mean, it's dark very early. My kids are using it to train, you know, like, not late, I mean, really, truly not late. I mean, they're using it 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. But we have to turn on the floodlights on the pool house in order for them to be able to see. So, I mean, my kids are, like, we're not using it late, but we still do need light,
No,
even
it's-
without, no, I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, ma'am, it's not a question of whether, when we, as a board, call out the need for relief, we're not necessarily saying that the applicant can't meet the proofs for that relief. But it's very important for every applicant to be treated the same in terms of what relief is needed. So I think what Eileen is referring to is that fact that relief is needed from this board to allow you to light this facility at night. You need to get a variance to allow the facility to be lit at night. And of course, that might be subject to conditions in terms of hours, like Mr. Bayo talked about, et cetera. But you still need to apply for the relief, notice for the relief, and present proofs of what's called the positive and negative criteria to be permitted or have the board vote in favor of granting it.
Now, Mr. Simon, if though my notice to the public, including to the neighbors, clearly stated, and any additional variances that are determined the night of the hearing, something along those lines, does that give us immunity from the re-noticing?
Not in this case, and I'll tell you why. So there are cases where what's called the catch-all phrase that you just described may cover you if, for example, the applicant says, I need a 12-foot variance or deviation, and it turned out to be 11 feet or 10 feet or 9 feet, okay? Case law says that, well, that's not really fair to have them come back and start over because they're off by a foot or 2 feet, right? That's what really started and led to having this catch-all phrase so that it wouldn't be a whoops, got you type of thing. Here, the variance relief that you need is very different than what you noticed for, right?
Sure.
It's not like that you noticed for this variance, but that you used the wrong foot candle measurement, right? In terms of minimum, maximum, or, right?
Right.
So it doesn't allow you, because of the nature of the variance that you didn't apply for, to utilize the catch-all phrase to include it. And even if you did, I'd have an issue because the board or a member of the public would never know that you needed a variance because they went to go look at your application, and your application also didn't talk about any lighting. You didn't include any lighting in terms of, or relief for lighting included in any of the application materials.
Well, the request for relief did not include lighting.
Right. Right, and it's not someone's fault, it's just, like, this happens.
But we did testify extensively about lighting at HPC, and lots of, we've spent thousands of dollars creating these planometrics. So I can come back and testify. I don't want to do something wrong. We want to do it completely transparent. The variance relief was needed when the garden walls around the structure were required. And so that's what triggered the offset, and so the variance request was made based on that. The lighting didn't just emerge on here. It had been adjudicated, but not through this body, through a version of this body known as HPC, because they're an accretion of this body.
But you have a huge advantage because it sounds like the work's already done.
Oh yeah, and we never tried to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. And
We showed these up right here, I think.
yeah. In fact, we even met with neighbors talking about lighting. But that's fine. We'll do the proper thing, because that's what we want to do.
Can I just, it's in section 5, it's not a variance, it's a waiver, but it still would have required notice, correct?
Well,
That's why I wanted to make sure. It's in section 5 of the ordinance, so it's not a variance, it's a waiver.
so it's a design exception,
Mhm.
right? But does it
I'm just
talk,
looking to see-
what's that?
I'm just looking to see if it's in section 6 at all. I don't believe it's it. One second, 69. No, it's not in any other area.
Okay, Eileen, just read to me again what the actual language says in section
It's
5.
section 512.2, no above ground lighting of recreational facilities on 1 and 2 family residential properties shall be permitted except as provided in section 609.11 regarding swimming pools. They make special exceptions for swimming pools.
Yeah, so you're gonna need, it sounds like the way the ordinance is written, you're gonna need a form of exception relief.
Okay.
For lighting of this outdoor structure. Now, whether, Eileen, while we're here, so that this is comprehensive, they have to come back. Is there any additional relief that they would need beyond that and the setbacks for the columns?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
No.
Is there any additional information that any board member may want to see that is not included in the application materials relative to this application? Because we wouldn't want to have the applicant come back and the board say, oh, wait, can you come back a third time and present this?
I want to find out, is there any variance that forbids invasive plants? Only because I would feel terrible if I invested in all this and then because I know there's like some invasive,
We don't have to
there's
use
stuff,
IBM.
there's like invasive.
Not in the zoning.
Plant, but I don't know that there's any forbidden
Not in the
plants.
zoning.
Bamboo, I thought was something that
No,
was.
not in the zoning ordinance.
Actually, I would take a photo board of the existing surface conditions, just so they can see it.
Yeah, I can do that. I'll have photos of the surface conditions. Maybe we can do a climbing wisteria. I think
Wisteria might be one of those things too, I don't know,
Yeah.
they're funny, and there's been discussion about it, but.
I'll do some research and I'll present it at the next meeting.
Right, make sure it's all okay, before you go to the trouble and discuss.
Sure. One question for the attorney. The renotice, it's not an ordinance, it's a waiver, right? So should I notice that we are also seeking design waivers for the lighting? Because most public will not
Yeah,
understand.
this is what I would recommend. So the purpose, and this is kind of a tweaky one because it's not, it's a exception instead of a variance.
Yes.
So the short answer is prepare your notice and send it to me and I'll take a quick look at it, make sure it's good. Just to cut to the chase. But the purpose of notice is to advise the public of the nature of the matters
Yes.
considered.
And if I write that out properly, saying we are also seeking waivers on having lighting underneath the structure.
Yield the site to the section.
Eileen, can I meet with you on that and get some language that you think would be in regular person speak?
You didn't understand what I read to you?
I understood it completely, but I have to write it into a public
There you
notice.
go, just like that. Well,
Write the
don't
whole
have to
thing?
be till
Yeah, let me come in.
Friday. I won't be here till Friday.
You're not in next week?
I'm not here this week. I'm
Oh, you'll be
leaving
in next week.
At 10
It's
o'clock
League
tonight.
League of Municipalities this week.
Yeah, I know. But she was just in Paris. They don't. Short Hill specifically prohibits outdoor lighting when it gets dark. Yeah, or they come before this board. This board will review it. I'm sure this board has granted lighting court open.
Can I ask a question, just again, I just want to understand, so like, how do people, do people get permission to light their, forget the structure, just forget that for a second. Like, can you put a light on your tennis court just to play, like a low, like, so you don't have to stop at 4 o'clock when it's winter or fall? So nowhere in Short Hills do people play,
I haven't had anyone come, I don't think we've ever had anyone come and ask for lighting,
The public parks don't even have it.
you know.
do you- like, when
No,
it's fall?
that's not
you
true.
can't play in the-
Giro has lighting and they
do
turn them
the
off.
basketball court and the tennis, but not on the baseball fields.
No.
But so what's it, so they do have it on basketball and tennis?
Yeah, they're
It
lit till
goes
10
off
o'clock.
Automatically at 10
Is
o'clock.
that because it's a park? I'm just trying to understand, like, if you want to play tennis at your house.
Most people work and they don't get home till 7 and they,
Kids
in the
live-
summer, they go out and play at night.
Yeah, but I don't know of any application that I've seen for
Um,
tennis or any other sports court where they've asked to light the court at night.
I'm not even talking night, I'm talking just like late afternoon and.
No,
fall.
but the
That's
point
only
being
a
is
couple
that
months
it's,
ago.
even if it's 8 o'clock,
It's only-
it's still a lit court where you're increasing the hours of use. And the question is, if it's permitted by the ordinance, that's great. If it's not permitted by the ordinance, you need a variance or you need an exception. And, you know, every ordinance in almost every municipality, including Milburn, says anything that's not expressly permitted is prohibited. We didn't write the ordinance. We just call balls and strikes.
In so doing, this can move pretty quickly from my standpoint. A renoticing I can do in about 2 hours. Can I get on the December calendar?
Well, we can, that means, let's say tomorrow is, that's
Today
okay.
is Monday. Let's see that item by tomorrow, they would publish.
Oh, wait, the item's due tomorrow?
So
No.
you can't get the item till next Thursday.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the earliest that they'll do is next
Yes,
Thursday.
next Thursday, which is,
When is the next hearing?
that I could put you on. I mean, I could probably. They're being counted. 1, 2, 3. I have 4 on the 2nd. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 on the 16th, one of which is a Karen. Well, actually.
We'd have to be the 16th. We
they're all
couldn't do the second.
carryovers. I could Put you on the 16th, but you're gonna be last
Are you in town?
because all the
I
other
have
ones.
no idea.
Do we want?
I'm not, obviously, I'm not able to talk anymore today.
No, we haven't closed my,
Yeah.
I own this
Yeah.
moment.
I'm not,
I'm only being courteous.
I don't know what's going on with holidays and
Okay.
things.
So we'd like to carry this to the December 16th hearing. I should meet the conditions of noticing before that.
And we'd like to encourage you to maybe speak to your neighbor who's, you know, here
I would
with some
love to.
concerns. Maybe she could, offline.
Yeah, I did it last time.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
I went
And,
over.
you know, if she has any questions, then maybe we'll be better prepared to address them next
Yeah.
time you come before the board.
Will you accept me coming back over?
I think it's reaching a situation where I have to get a lawyer. No, this is becoming a big thing, a big overnight thing. Noise is gonna be constant till 2 a.m. with tennis courts and everything.
Ma'am.
The children.
First of all.
No, I mean,
this is-
I'm
we're
answering
not-
the
we're not-
question.
First of all, we haven't even opened up to the public yet, I think.
Right.
I was just being courteous about the dates. I'm sorry I did that.
We're just, and the chairwoman just gave a suggestion, you know, for the applicant to maybe understand your concerns. And certainly, I think you already heard that the applicant was willing to limit hours. So I think that this idea of 2 a.m. is not.
We'll work it out.
very real.
I'm positive. All right, thank you. That's one way to do it.
So we're not at.
Lighting
So-
is limited everywhere.
That's right. So if the matter wasn't properly noticed, are we actually carrying it or he has to renotice?
No, he has to renotice.
I'm renoticed.
And it's going to be, you have a new date, or at least the tentative date of December 16th. And you're gonna have to, essentially, not that we've gotten very far, but it's essentially a do-over.
Understood. So we're carrying with no further note,
No,
we're not carrying.
we are carrying it with, we're not carrying it, we're rescheduling it with new notice.
notices, okay,
You have to renotice. So we're not actually carrying it because you have to renotice everything.
got it, all right, will do.
Correct,
So I'm assuming there's no one in the audience who wants to speak about anything that's not pertaining to matters on the agenda, because I'm not seeing anyone. So do I have a motion to?
Can I just say
Okay.
one thing?
Motion to close.
Yeah. We're weakening.
Priscilla's out the door.
I want to hear it. Listen, thank you, Joe. 14 seconds. So if the board is aware, the board was in the middle of some litigation that was brought by a neighbor on the Henry application.
Can we talk about this now?
Granted, I just want to let everyone know we're not talking about it.
Okay, okay.
It's 14 seconds. That we had a trial earlier this week, or was it this, no, it was late last week. And the judge said she would make a decision within 60 days, and just want to give her one update.
Oh, thank you.
14 seconds.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Now we want to know more.
I
know. Motion to close now.
Do we have a
Second.
second?
I don't wanna-
So I'm
And
not,
all in
I'm not
favor?
permitted to talk anymore,
Aye.
even though.
No, we just closed the hearing.
Sorry, so that's being scratched, that whole application, because they didn't send proper notification to the neighbors.
Okay.
You'll come back on December 16th with a lawyer, whoever you want, and it'll be a start over for that application. Okay?
I just didn't know.
You should be re-noticed if you're a neighbor.
Which neighbor are you?
I'm the one, they are in my front yard.
Okay, all right, that's.
Okay, this way now.
Nope.
Happy Thanksgiving.